Well, good evening, Little Masters, and welcome to episode 220 of the Prancing Pony podcast, where, well, at last we know the link between Isengard and Mordor and how it worked.
Snapchat, right?
Yep.
That's what I thought. Well, folks, go ahead and pull up a bench in the common room. I'm Shawn Marchese, the real-life Lord of the Mark, and I'm here with the Man of the West, who was also brought from the foundered land over the flowing sea, Alan Sisto.
7 mics and 7 shows and 1 host me.
Did you just fire me?
Well, no, that was an early draft version of the verse.
Oh, okay, got it. I'm sorry. That one host.
This is the long-lost line to the rhyme, Shawn.
All right, okay. I thought this was still a 2-host show, but okay, good.
Well, you know, us and C just don't rhyme, so I had to come up with something.
Fair enough.
Folks, today we're going to be talking about the second half of the Palantír. That's chapter 11, the last chapter in book 3 of The Lord of the Rings, and it's where Gandalf and Pippin go on a road trip.
Yeah, but it's not a fun road trip. It's the kind of road trip that's encouraged by the arrival of a terrifying wraith on wings.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I want any part of that one.
No.
But for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome.
Yeah.
Here at the Prancing Pony podcast, we are working our way through J.R.R. Tolkien's Legendarium a few pages at a time.
That's right. We study the details, make connections to other writings, talk about our favorite themes.
And we have a lot of fun along the way. So we're glad you've joined us.
We are indeed, and we hope you'll be glad you joined as well. But before we get back to the text, it's time to go back in time to visit with somebody in the North Wing. Today we're bringing you another new installment of The North Wing.
Barlam and Butterbur had a room or two in the North Wing at the Prancing Pony Inn, made special for hobbits. Well, this is our place made special for some of our listeners to give us a chance to get to know them.
Now, rooms at the North Wing are a little hard to come by, so only our patrons at the Bombadil's Bequest and Círdan's contribution tiers are eligible. So if you'd like to be one of the next patrons to join us, please be sure to check out patreon.com/prancingponypod.
Please do. We've got a waiting list for the North Wing right now, but we'll get to all of them really soon, and we will always make room for more if necessary.
Well then, why don't we go ahead and welcome tonight's guest to the North Wing, Mario Durant.
Hey, thank you. It's good to meet you both.
It's good to have you. Thanks for coming on.
Pleasure to have you, Mario. Thanks for joining.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure for me.
Well, why don't we go ahead and start with what we always do. Tell us a bit about yourself. Where are you from? What do you do? What do your loved ones think of all this Tolkien stuff you're into? Do they think you're a total nerd? Do they like it like you do? That sort of thing.
So, yes, on the nerd, without question, 100%, completely and totally, and I'm perfectly fine with that. It's genetic also. That nerdism does pass from one generation to another. I've grown up in Utah all my life, with the exception that we did live in Colorado for 4 years while I went to school. I'm a veterinarian, small animal veterinarian, and have done that for 23 years. And I have loved Tolkien ever since, well, it's a long story, ever since I was 17, really, but I never read his books until I was 28. The first time I was introduced to Tolkien was when I was 17. The neighbor across the street, who was a very reclusive older lady, was moving, and I had never met her before. My mother volunteered her children, all of her children, to go and help this wonderful lady move who I'd never met. We went over to her house, and the first thing that impressed me was that she had an entire room in her tiny little house that was full of books, a library, ceiling to floor. Every wall was covered, and that was our job that day, was to go and box up all of her books. She asked me that day what I'd like to read, and I told her I loved the Narnia books. I loved the religious symbolism in C.S. Lewis's Narnia books, and she told me that if I liked those, I should read Lord of the Rings and look for the religious symbolism in those books. It was far deeper and far more powerful, and I never forgot her comment on that. She was a Presbyterian minister, had been at least in her past, and after she made that comment, it just kind of sat in the back of my head. Graduated from high school. I served a mission for my church for 2 years. I got married. I had children. I went to graduate school for 4 years. And after all that, I still remembered the comment of this lady, and I decided to finally put it to the test and began reading those books. And by the way, I'm so glad I did that before the movies came out, so I had my own image in my head of those stories before the movies came out. And I love the movies, but I really am glad I had my own image in my own head before the movies put any images in my head.
Yeah,
definitely.
Totally get that. Absolutely. All right. That's awesome, Mario. Thank you. And you've already sort of predicted the question that I ask everybody who comes to the Prancing Pony, which is how you first discovered Tolkien's
It's
works.
probably because we asked that of everybody who comes to the Prancing Pony, Shawn. Have we thought of that?
Probably every single time. But I can still ask you the second part of that, which is what was your experience like when you first read the books, and why do you keep coming back to them?
Yeah.
That's a good question. The Fellowship of the Ring was actually the hardest one to get through. If you haven't read it before, and before the movies came out, it was a slow read for me up until the last, maybe, I don't know, 20% of the book. It started to get really intriguing. I pushed through because I really wanted to find out what my friend had recommended it for to me. And so once I hit the very end of the Fellowship, I was really hooked. And the rest of the read was just a delight. It was just fabulous from that point forward. Now I find when I go back and read the Fellowship, it's not slow anymore because I know the story and I know where it's leading, and I can look for the buildup, But the first time I read it, it was a difficult start for me without question. And those I think tend to be among the best reads of all, the ones that make you work for it, the ones that start out a little slow, that do some great character development and set the scene for a powerful story and a powerful ending. And Tolkien is the master of that. And so that was my first experience reading it. And what keeps bringing me back over and over is just the phenomenal story that he wrote. This beautiful story between good and evil. It's so inspiring on every level of life. It applies to all ages and all settings. And I find when I read it at different ages, I find that it applies differently in different stages of my life. I find that it inspires me every time, but in different ways.
I have noticed that too. I feel like I've been reading it over and over again for about 30 years now, and every single time I'm a different person, and it really resonates in a different way. It's really well said.
Well, which is your favorite book in the Legendarium? Now I think I know what that might be and why. And then if you have a favorite non-Legendarium work, which would that be and why?
My favorite in the Legendarium is the Fellowship of the Ring, and it's because it took that effort to work for it. For me, it's the build-up, it's the character development, and I love all the books of the Legendarium now. I cried the first time I read it in Appendix A as I was reading the very, very last, or whatever the appendix is, I can't remember now, the appendix that shows the end of Sam's story. When you see his very, very last bit of his story, it made me cry because I just didn't want it to end, and I knew that was the very last part of the story of the Fellowship. But I love the creation of this Fellowship of the Ring, who, without really knowing what they were getting themselves into, they made a pact or a bond with each other, and they chose to do something really difficult, and they remained faithful to each other throughout the story. I love the Fellowship of the Ring. Non-Legendarium, because of you, I love the Letters of Father Christmas. I really didn't know much about them until your show. And also because of you, I have started to read for the first time ever Leaf by Niggle. I'm not through it yet, but I'm sure I will like that. I just started that this week, in fact, because of your more recent, what was it, the Tolkien thought that you gave at the beginning of one of the shows a couple of shows ago.
Well, if you got into The Lord of the Rings because somebody once told you about the kind of deep, somewhat hidden religious symbolism, I think you'll find Leaf by Niggle a little more on the nose. Some good stuff there, though.
Very much so. I think you'll enjoy that one a lot.
Yeah, it's a great story. My favorite non-Legendarium work as well.
Well, Mario, do you have any Tolkien goals you'd like to share? Maybe tracking down a special book for your collection or going to a mood or anything like that?
Well, I definitely want to finish Leaf by Niggle and then continue to listen to your show and find out what else you inspire me to read that I've never read before. And someday, I would love to go to a moot when they're happening again. The Oxford one sounds like a really fun one to go to. I'd never heard about that one before, but on your show, I've now become aware of it and would love to attend something in that nature. I bet I could talk my wife into coming with me. I think she would, even though it's kind of a nerdy thing that I like. She likes to come and support me and be fun places.
Well, Oxford's certainly a wonderful place to be. That would be a fantastic event to attend. I know I'd love to be able to be there.
Yeah. Same.
Well, now it's time for a quick lightning round of quick questions in theory and quick answers again in theory. Shawn?
All right, Mario, who's your favorite character in Lord of the Rings?
Sam Gamgee. He's the everyday, ordinary person who does extraordinary things. I love the inspiration that the most simple of people can do truly extraordinary things.
Indeed.
Solid answer.
Well, what's the one place in Middle-earth you wish you could visit?
Oh my goodness. Well, I knew this was going to come up too. I've heard this question asked before, and part of me really would say Rivendell. I love libraries. I love learning. I love places of sanctuary without question. However, I also really would love to visit Edoras and the Medusel, the mead hall that was modeled after Beowulf, and meet the people whose culture revolves around horses and animals. Being a veterinarian, I love the idea of that culture and how close to nature they are and how close to the animal kingdom they are. I love that, the Rohirrim, the people of Rohan. I think that's a inspiring culture.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. I really like that
is.
one. All right. Do you have a favorite poem or song in the Legendarium?
Does the one that Billy Boyd sings in the halls of Denethor count? I love the way he sings that. It's beautifully. I think Tolkien wrote it, but Billy Boyd put it to his own music. It's I love that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that certainly counts. Those are Tolkien's words.
It's in Fellowship of the Ring, isn't it, Alan? I think it's
Home
in
is
book
behind,
one.
the world ahead.
Yeah.
It's in Fellowship. That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, Billy Boyd turned it into a much more haunting tune than I think I would have, imagined. I love it. Favorite Tolkien artist or work of art?
I like Tolkien's art himself. Actually, I love looking at the maps that he drew and the art that he painted himself or drew out of his own imagination.
Yeah, me too.
It's hard to find a more authoritative source than Tolkien himself, isn't it?
That's true.
I love looking at it the way he saw it in his own mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that. Well, do you have a favorite author or book other than Tolkien?
I am a huge, even more than Tolkien lover, I'm a lover of great literature. I think Dostoevsky is probably my very favorite. Crime and Punishment, that is a tremendous book, tremendous read.
My goodness.
Excellent.
That is some heady stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things that I've wanted to read for a long time. And I don't know, maybe I've been intimidated by it, but I probably just need to dive in and just give it a shot.
I've been intimidated too. That's a big project. Well, thank you, Mario. We've really enjoyed having you here in the North Wing, but I think it's time for all of us to head back into the common room and join the rest of the listeners.
Thank you very much. It's great to meet you both.
Our pleasure.
Thanks again, Mario, and we'll see you back at our next Questions After Nightfall, perhaps, if not sooner.
And now we return you to the podcast in progress. Those are always so much fun. Thanks for joining us again, Mario. We really appreciate it. Shawn, I'm going to have you pick up exactly where we left off last time.
Okay. With that, Gandalf returned to the others, who were still standing by the Orthanc stone in troubled thought. "Peril comes in the night when least expected," he said. "We have had a narrow escape." "How is the hobbit, Pippin?" asked Aragorn. "I think all will be well now," answered Gandalf. "He was not held long, and hobbits have an amazing power of recovery. The memory, or the horror of it, will probably fade quickly. Too quickly, perhaps. Will you, Aragorn, take the Orthanc stone and guard it? It is a dangerous charge." "Dangerous indeed, but not to all," said Aragorn. "There is one who may claim it by right. For this assuredly is the Palantír of Orthanc from the treasury of Elendil, set here by the kings of Gondor. Now my hour draws near. I will take it." Gandalf looked at Aragorn, and then, to the surprise of the others, he lifted the covered stone and bowed as he presented it. "Receive it, Lord," he said, "in earnest of other things that shall be given back. But if I may counsel you in the use of your own, do not use it yet. Be wary." "When have I been hasty or unwary, who have waited and prepared for so many long years?" said Aragorn. "Never yet. Do not then stumble at the end of the road," answered Gandalf. "But at least keep this thing secret, you and all others that stand here."
Generally good advice.
Quite.
So as Merry and Pippin commiserate, Gandalf goes back to the others and explains that close call, doesn't he?
Yeah, and Aragorn, as one might expect from, something that's happened to a good friend of his, he's concerned about Pippin's well-being more than anything here. Really.
Right. Which is more than can be said for Gandalf.
It is. And speaking of that, I have to ask, why do you think Aragorn says, "How is the Hobbit Pippin?"
Oh, that's a good...
Like, does he not think Gandalf knows who Pippin is at this point?
Maybe he wants to just call him something other than the fool, right?
Maybe. I don't know.
No.
I mean, is it for the benefit of others here? I don't know.
Maybe.
It's like, Gandalf should be like, I know who Pippin is.
How is Pippin, or how is the Hobbit? How is the Hobbit Pippin? That's a very good question, Shawn. I don't know.
I know that there's an answer to it. It struck me as a little odd.
How is the Hobbit would be pretty clear.
Yeah.
We don't really care how Merry's doing because he didn't look in the darn thing.
Right. And how is Pippin would also be perfectly acceptable for people who are old friends at this point.
Because there's not a dwarf named Pippin hanging around,
Right.
Huh.
It's like, the writer of Rohan Pippin is doing fine, but you meant the Hobbit. Okay.
Oh, yeah. That guy.
I don't know.
Not so great. I don't know, Shawn. That's a question that doesn't have an answer.
I have no idea. We'll see if we can find anything for it for the postscript. I don't know if we will, but it's a weird thing to me.
So, Gandalf explains that Pippin was going to be okay for a couple of reasons, right? One, Sauron didn't hold him for long. And two, I love this, hobbits are incredibly resilient.
That's right. Yeah, we saw that all the way back in the prologue.
Yeah, they're doughty at bay as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in fact, Gandalf's worried that the recovery might be too easy in some ways.
That's
right?
true, a little too resilient.
He might forget all about this way too quickly.
Uh-huh.
But then he asks Aragorn to take the stone and guard it. Got to keep it safe from Pippin, who's now going to be tempted, right?
That's right. I like the way he asks him, "Will you, Aragorn, take the Orthanc stone to be for your lawfully wedded spouse and guard it?"
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It does sound like that, doesn't it? Just at the very beginning of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Gandalf, of course, admits, look, Aragorn, this is a dangerous task. We know the stone has a really powerful lure. So he is, at least aware that it's not like, hey, you got this? He knows this is a big deal. But Aragorn doesn't balk at that even in the slightest. Instead, he lays claim to the stone, doesn't he?
Who do you think you're talking to? Do you know who I am, son? I am Aragorn, son of Arathorn.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, and he's right. I mean, there is danger here, obviously. There is a general danger, but it's not as dangerous.
No.
To me, its rightful owner.
That's right.
Because at this point, we talked about this last time, nobody in the story actually knew what this thing was yet.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, Aragorn has figured out that the stone is the Palantír of Orthanc.
Right.
That was put here by the kings. This was put here by Elendil.
By his ancestors. Absolutely right. And now that his time to take the throne is coming, he's going to take the stone by right. Now, we know if we look at Unfinished Tales in the section of the Palantír, that a rightful user, as Shawn pointed out, is much less at risk. The text tells us specifically that the stones were far more amenable to legitimate users, most of all to true heirs of Elendil, as Aragorn.
That's right. And we'll examine that passage more closely in a couple of seasons when we get to a slightly more appropriate moment. Because that passage compares the use of the Palantír by Saruman and Denethor, explaining that the latter, Denethor, was able to resist domination by Sauron precisely because he had the right to use the stone, unlike Saruman.
That's right. Now, as for Aragorn's claim, Unfinished Tales gives us something well worth reading right here. Aragorn thus claimed the right to take the Orthanc stone into his possession, since it was now, for the time being, without owner or warden, and also because he was de jure the rightful king of both Gondor and Arnor, and could, if he willed, for just cause, withdraw all previous grants to himself. Now, just a quick reminder for those of you who don't know what de jure is. It's not like a jury, but it does mean by law. So the words are related. But that's to stand in contrast with de facto, meaning in fact. So Aragorn is by law the rightful king of Gondor and Arnor, but he is not yet in fact the leader of Gondor. That would be Denethor. So Denethor is the de facto ruler of Gondor. Aragorn is the de jure king of Gondor.
Right. Yeah. And coming back to this text here, I mean, Gandalf doesn't dispute this claim for a millisecond. I mean, he knows full well who Aragorn is. He knows that Aragorn has the right to the stone, as he says he does. And that's where we get this amazing moment where he lifts the stone and bows as he gives it to Aragorn.
That's right.
This is showing the king his proper authority, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's very rare to see Gandalf do something like this, and it does surprise the others, understandably so, because we're not used to seeing Gandalf show deference to somebody else.
I know it is odd to see Gandalf, Receive it, Lord. Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But this is a king of men, or it's going to be a king of men very soon. And I think Gandalf is not only showing respect because he feels Aragorn deserves respect, but I also think that Gandalf is doing this in front of other people to show them that they need to treat Aragorn with this kingly respect as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And while Gandalf does give it freely, as you point out, and, with that sort of leadership of, hey, everybody, look at me giving deference to the king. Please, you should do the same. He does suggest, though, that Aragorn take his counsel to not use it yet. Take care. And I love the way Aragorn responds to this. He doesn't respond with deference to Gandalf and say, you know what, you're right, wise wizard. He says,
No.
Are you out of your mind? You've known me for how long? And have you ever known me to be hasty? I've been in the shadows for years as Thorongil, as we all know. He's been doing this errantry for decades. And as he points out, have you ever known me to be hasty?
Yeah. I'm not even hasty about aging, Gandalf. Come on.
No.
Look at me. I'm 88.
I'm 88. I'm 88.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Shippey.
Sorry. I can't think of him being 88, not 87 without hearing Tom say that in that talk. Yeah.
I can't hear it without, every time I correct myself when I'm about to say he's 87, I think of Tom Shippey. No, he's 88. Yeah, but Gandalf has a pretty solid response. It's like, okay, yeah, you've done great so far. So do not then stumble at the end of the road.
Isn't that a great line?
It's a wonderful line.
Yeah.
This is good advice for anybody in any situation.
Really is.
No matter how well you've been doing so far, race isn't over until the finish line.
Isn't that the truth? I mean, how many times do you almost get there and then you stumble and maybe you say, Danny Quettle,
You might.
Yeah, you might.
You might.
So Gandalf provides more counsel, and his advice is good. Keep it secret. Not just you, Aragorn, but the rest of you here, right? He says, all of you and all others that stand here. And we don't know who that is. Yeah, all you knuckleheads. I can almost hear Gandalf saying that. We don't know who all is standing here other than Theoden, because we do get some dialogue from him. But, I think it's safe to assume we probably have Legolas and Gimli and probably Éomer as well.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Probably some of the top-ranking folks that we've seen so far. Obviously, we know Pippin is not here because he's talking about him as if he's not here, and that's smart because he's the last person that should know where it is.
No.
I mean, he has touched it, and he has looked at it. And Gandalf says the evil fit may come on him again. That temptation is already there now, and it may hit him again.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. But yeah, he can't touch this.
Do.
Thank you. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate you reading my mind.
Yep, you're welcome.
So Gandalf expresses regret that he didn't prevent Pippin from picking it up back at Orthanc, but he gives the reasonable excuse. I was focused on Saruman, and also I did not at once guess the nature of the large, heavy object thrown at my general direction.
Oh, I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, pretty clear.
I thought it was another perfectly round, perfectly smooth, indestructible crystal ball.
Saruman and I used to go bowling all the time. I thought that's what it was.
Yeah. I just thought he filled in the holes. I didn't know. Although in The War of the Ring, Christopher Tolkien, in all seriousness, observes that there is a curious series of shifts in the precise wording of Gandalf's remarks about his failure to understand immediately the nature of the ball thrown down from Orthanc.
Right. And he goes on to walk through the various drafts, but they honestly don't change much at all. I said nothing because I knew nothing. I guessed only I know now. I did not guess the full nature of the stone, not until now, but now I know the link between Isengard and Mordor, which has long puzzled me. A lot of little changes, huh?
Yeah, and then you get to, I did not guess the nature of the stone till I saw it in his, meaning Pippin's, hands. Not until now was I sure. And then finally you get to the version in the book. I did not at once guess the nature of the stone. Then I was weary, and as I lay pondering it, sleep overcame me. Now I know.
And Christopher concludes, there is, to be sure, among all these formulations, no great difference in the actual meaning, but it was evidently a detail that concerned my father. Just how much did Gandalf surmise about the Palantír before Pippin's experience brought certainty, and how soon?
That's a really interesting observation. I think the fact that these are kind of insignificant changes, but he did niggle with it so much, I think
great word.
That is very telling. I think that even more so than significant changes tells us that he was really concerned about knowing what Gandalf knew. Yeah, he really was trying to dial this in really tight and make sure it was clear what Gandalf knew and didn't know, and when he did know it, right? Yeah, exactly. And Aragorn agrees. He says, yeah, we now know the
Oh,
link
yeah.
between Saruman and Sauron.
Yeah.
Much is explained. And then that's where you're going to pick up.
All right. Strange powers have our enemies and strange weaknesses, said Theoden. But it has long been said, oft evil will shall evil mar. That many times is seen, said Gandalf. But at this time we have been strangely fortunate. Maybe I have been saved by this hobbit from a grave blunder. I had considered whether or not to probe this stone myself to find its uses. Had I done so, I should have been revealed to him myself. I am not ready for such a trial, if indeed I shall ever be so. But even if I found the power to withdraw myself, it would be disastrous for him to see me yet, until the hour comes when secrecy would avail no longer. That hour has now come, I think, said Aragorn. Not yet, said Gandalf. There remains a short while of doubt which we must use. The enemy, it is clear, thought that the stone was in Orthanc. Why should he not? And that therefore the hobbit was captive there, driven to look in the glass for his torment by Saruman. That dark mind will be filled now with the voice and face of the hobbit, and with expectation. It may take some time before he learns his error. We must snatch that time. We have been too leisurely. We must move. The neighborhood of Isengard is no place now to linger in. All right. And of course he goes on, but we can't read the whole chapter, unfortunately.
So Theoden's immediate response, which you started with, is, wow, our enemies have some strange powers, don't they?
Yeah, they sure do.
But then he ends with that great saying, oft evil will shall evil mar.
Oh, that is great.
Yeah. It's like, I break it down a little bit. Basically, your own evil schemes can be your undoing. And
yeah,
that is basically what's happened here. And Gandalf agrees with that.
Yeah.
He says, we actually were very fortunate. So we've got a Spabimi moment here, don't we?
We really do. You're right. Absolutely. Going back to that saying, though, oft evil will shall evil mar, it completely reminds me of just earlier in the chapter, often does hatred hurt itself. It's the same kind of truism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Gandalf kind of describes why we were fortunate, right? Going back to that Spavimi moment. He says, if Pippin hadn't looked at it, I probably would have done so myself. And that would have been a disaster.
Absolute disaster. Even if I'd had the strength, he says, which isn't likely. I mean, that's saying something right there. This is Gandalf 2.0. This is the one who's been to the Timeless Halls. He's been sent back with more power and fewer limitations. And even he's not sure
if he was strong enough for this contest.
He's sure that he's not ready for the trial now, and he might not ever be. That is really saying something.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah. But even if he had, of course, the whole point is that just being seen by him, revealing myself to Sauron, would have been a huge problem. Absolutely.
Yeah. Right. And then he says that, secrecy is really key right now. We need to be secret for as long as possible.
That's right.
And Aragorn has a counterpoint here. He says, actually, I think the time has come where secrecy is no longer to our advantage. I think it's time for us to declare ourselves openly.
Yeah. And I see Aragorn's point, but of course, Gandalf points out that there's a reason why the time is not yet. Sauron believes that the stone is in Orthanc, of course, because that's where it's been for all this time. And how would it have ever been removed? Therefore, he believes Pippin has been captured by Saruman. And given that Saruman now has false, inaccurate information, that's the kind of thing that's going to make him make a mistake. And we have to capitalize on that.
Yep, absolutely. So his plan is to move quickly. He knows Isengard isn't safe. The neighborhood of Isengard. I like that. The neighborhood of Isengard is not safe anymore. And
the school districts are terrible. Crime is up. There's vandalism. Yeah.
But he says that he's going to ride ahead with Pippin. I know you didn't read this part, but he's going to take the Hobbit. He's taking the Hobbit to Minas Tirith.
If Gandalf will take you, Mary said yesterday, or I'm sorry, last week in the episode, but only about 20 minutes ago.
Right.
And he's going to take him all right. In the meantime, Theoden says, look, I'm going to take Éomer and 10 riders, but the rest of my guys can go with Aragorn as soon as they'd like.
But Gandalf says, go as fast as you can and as hidden as you can to Helm's Deep.
That's right. Secrecy still absolutely matters.
Yep.
But make all the speed you may to our website, theprancingponypodcast.com.
Oh, please do. We've got all the good stuff there. Show notes, outtakes, Prancing Pony Ponderings, and also our online storefront where you can get PPP shirts, mugs, stickers, and more.
And of course, one of the best resources we have there at the website, that's our library page. We love the books here at the Prancing Pony Podcast. And of course, we want to make sure you can get your hands on any of the books we mention here.
Yeah, we may talk about a lot of Tolkien-related stuff on the podcast, but of course, Alan and I are fans of Tolkien's books and books about Tolkien.
That's right.
That's why we have the library page with links to every book we've mentioned on the show.
Now, we do make a few pennies from the purchases you make from those links, and we thank you for your support. Now, here's the thing. We've told you about this new podcast the last couple of weeks, but with our season ending, Shawn and I have just one more chance to tell you about this great podcast called Storybound. Now, as we wrap up our season, they're starting theirs. It's their 4th season, and the show features a wide range of today's top writers reading their own works, essays, poems, and stories.
And in every episode, you're going to hear authors sharing their critically acclaimed writing, accompanied by an immersive soundscape of original music and sound effects.
Now, this new season includes writers like Chuck Klosterman, Morgan Jerkins, Matt Haig, Nicole Perkins, Omar El Akkad, Ruth Warrener, and Tamara Winfrey Harris.
Storybound is brought to you by The Podglomerate and LitHub Radio. Season 4 is their best yet, so subscribe today on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to our show.
That's right. Now, lots of things can make your workouts hard. Extra resistance, double speed, 1 more mile. Your socks shouldn't be one of those things, though. And that's why Bombas Performance socks are built to be nothing but comfortable and supportive.
Bombas Performance socks have taken all those amazing innovations that make them the comfiest socks around, and they've added their special Hex-Tech performance technology.
Moisture-wicking yarn, temperature-regulating vents that allow cool air to flow in and keep your feet from overheating.
Yeah, and there's even a pillow-like tab to keep you from getting blisters, a special arch-hugging system, and really effective stay-up technology.
And the extra layer of cushioning comfort on the bottom gives those Bombas Performance socks the perfect amount of support.
And they come in different styles for every sport, with special features designed in to help maximize performance, and as always, keep your feet really comfortable.
Yeah. And of course, like all their socks, for every pair of Bombas Performance socks that you buy, they donate a pair to somebody in need. Over 45 million pairs so far and counting.
Yeah, and I've got to admit, I've been getting a little bit more exercise recently. Got a beach resort trip coming up, and so I've been walking and hitting the elliptical a bit more. My Bombas Performance socks have been keeping my feet dry and comfortable, even when I'm exercising in the garage in Texas.
Yeah, that's saying something. I just did actually an hour and 50-minute ride on my trainer the other day wearing a pair of my Bombas socks while I'm on my bike. And my feet were dry and comfy. I love them, actually. I wear them all the time. I bought more than the ones they sent us. So
yeah, same here. They're great.
They really are. So go to bombas.com/PPP today and get 20% off your first order.
That's BOMBAS.com. Bombas.com/PPP for 20% off your first purchase. Bombas.com/PPP.
Now, here's the thing. We don't normally tell you about 3 things during the break, but I got to tell you, I don't think Oxenmoot counts, does it, Shawn?
No, we'd be doing you all a disservice if we didn't mention it.
Yeah.
Folks, you probably already know that Oxenmoot is an annual event hosted by the Tolkien Society. It brings together Tolkien fans, scholars, and society members from across the world.
Oxenmoot 2021 is being held from Thursday, September 2nd to Sunday, September 5th. And for the first time ever, Oxenmoot is going to be a hybrid event, bringing folks together online as well as those attending in person at St. Anne's College in Oxford, UK.
Now, the Oxenmoot program is full of a huge variety of activities, from lectures to workshops to games and performances, all Tolkien themed.
That's right. And the weekend concludes with a visit to Tolkien's grave on Sunday afternoon in a ceremony known as Enyalie, which is remembrance.
And here's the greatest thing of all to somebody like me. As much of the programming as possible is going to be available to both in-person and online guests, with dedicated events for each group as well.
That's right.
Now, I'm going to be there online myself, and not going to be there in person this year, but I'm looking forward to every moment of the online experience.
Oh, it's going to be great. I mean, I have to admit, I'm planning on attending in person so long as travel restrictions allow, and I cannot wait to reconnect with many of the folks that we met at Tolkien 2019.
Yeah.
But of course, the fact that I can do it virtually if I have to is great.
Yep.
So for more information and to register, visit the Tolkien Society at tolkiensociety.org and click the Oxenmoot 2021 link. Or you can go to oxenmoot.org. That's OXONMOOT.org. Now, you know who's not welcome at Oxenmoot? The guy that's about to do a flyby over our friends.
Oh, that guy.
Shawn, why don't you pick up here?
All right. At that moment, a shadow fell over them. The bright moonlight seemed to be suddenly cut off. Several of the riders cried out and crouched, holding their arms above their heads as if to ward off a blow from above. A blind fear and a deadly cold fell on them. Cowering, they looked up. A vast winged shape passed over the moon like a black cloud. It wheeled and went north, flying at a speed greater than any wind of Middle-earth. The stars fainted before it. It was gone. They stood up, rigid as stones. Gandalf was gazing up, his arms out and downwards, stiff, his hands clenched. "Nazgûl," he cried, "the messenger of Mordor. The storm is coming. The Nazgûl have crossed the river. Ride! Ride! Wait not for the dawn. Let not the swift wait for the slow. Ride!" He sprang away, calling Shadowfax as he ran. Aragorn followed him. Going to Pippin, Gandalf picked him up in his arms. "You shall come with me this time," he said. "Shadowfax shall show you his paces." Then he ran to the place where he had slept. Shadowfax stood there already. Slinging the small bag which was all his luggage across his shoulders, the wizard leapt upon the horse's back. Aragorn lifted Pippin and set him in Gandalf's arms, wrapped in cloak and blanket. "Farewell! Follow fast!" cried Gandalf. "Away, Shadowfax!" The great horse tossed his head. His flowing tail flicked in the moonlight. Then he leapt forward, spurning the earth, and was gone like the north wind from the mountains.
Indeed he was. That's what Shadowfax does.
That is what Shadowfax does. It's what he's known for.
Now, we'll see this terrifying moment again in a couple of seasons, but we really do get a preview of it here, don't we? This whole blind fear, they cower to the ground, they get their hands above like they're going to ward off a blow.
You are absolutely reminded how fear is the primary weapon of the Nazgûl. I mean...
And surprise.
And an unswerving devotion to the Pope.
That's right. Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, they looked up cowering as this vast winged shape went overhead, blocking out the moonlight.
Yeah. Well, that's terrifying.
And I love this expression Tolkien uses when he says the stars fainted before it.
Ooh.
I don't know if I'm reading too much into this. Is Tolkien intentionally playing on the double meaning of faint? Meaning, literally just to go faint, but also to faint with fear. I mean, not that the stars are literally afraid, but he's using a word that is often associated with fear.
I think you're right.
I think he might be doing that on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless, it's a really cool use of language. And
it is.
After that, we see that the Nazgûl turns and goes north towards Isengard, and then it's gone.
It is. And Gandalf's stance was a bit different than everybody else, right? They were kind of almost on their knees, their hands over their head, but Gandalf was different, right? He had his arms out and down, stiff, hands clenched. It's more of a prepared defensive stance.
He's taking the ready action.
Yeah, he is taking a ready action. You're right. And he immediately is able to identify the source of this fear. It is a winged Nazgûl, and that is a terrifying thought.
Yeah. And he knows the situation. He's able to infer quite a bit from this. He knows that they have now been permitted to cross the Anduin.
Mm-hmm.
As we discussed last time, and we will discuss later in this episode, this Nazgûl did not come in response to Pippin using the Palantír. This one was already on its way.
No, it could not have gotten here that quickly. That's
Couldn't
correct.
have gotten here that quickly.
And we will talk about that, yeah.
But yeah, this one's already here, so we got to ride now.
Now. Don't wait for daylight. Don't wait for the slow riders. Everybody, get on your horse and ride. Get on your bikes and ride. There's a deep Queen cut for you right there. Now, the level of urgency just can't get any higher, can it?
No, absolutely. Absolutely not. This is like, we've got to go now.
Yeah.
And so they do.
Yeah.
But where to?
That's a good question.
A bit earlier, Gandalf had told Theoden to ride as quickly as possible to Helm's Deep, then keep to the hills, presumably to the muster of his men at Edoras.
Well, right.
But Theoden's going to discover when he gets to Dunharrow in a year and a half that the riders of Rohan are mustered early, right?
Yeah,
and not where he'd originally said for them to muster.
That's right, because they were supposed to originally muster at Edoras. Mm-hmm. But that's all thanks to Gandalf. And we'll learn about that in the Muster of Rohan, Book 5, Chapter 3, where we'll read that Dunher, the chieftain of Harrowdale, explains why this is to Theoden. "At dawn 3 days ago, Lord," he said, "Shadowfax came like a wind out of the west to Edoras, and Gandalf brought tidings of your victory to gladden our hearts. But he brought also word from you to hasten the gathering of the riders. And then came the winged shadow." "The winged shadow," said Theoden. "We saw it also, but that was in the dead of night before Gandalf left us." "Maybe, Lord," said Dunher. yet the same or another like to it. A flying darkness in the shape of a monstrous bird passed over Erebus that morning, and all men were shaken with fear, for it stooped upon Medgisel. And as it came low, almost to the gable, there came a cry that stopped our hearts. Then it was that Gandalf counselled us not to assemble in the fields, but to meet you here in the valley under the mountains. And he bade us kindle no more lights or fires than Beres need ask. So it has been done. Gandalf spoke with great authority. We trust that it is as you would wish.
And in fact, at one point, Tolkien had Gandalf explaining this to Theoden. Christopher Tolkien says that on a rejected page for the draft of the Muster of Rohan, there's a note that says, Gandalf must tell the king as he rides off that he will order the muster at Dunharrow and speed it up. And as Christopher observes, the words Gandalf must tell the king as he rides off can only refer to his leaving Dol Baran on Shadowfax after the Nazgûl passed over.
Right.
But no such change was in fact introduced in that place.
No, that's absolutely right. So Gandalf calls for Shadowfax as he is running. I love that. I'm off, but I'm not going to wait for my horse.
It is a total action hero moment.
It really is. I'm picturing him now as we got the camera. He's running towards camera, so it's very much a Tom Cruise moment. He's sprinting at full speed.
Totally, just no explosion in the background.
And you got the Nazgûl behind him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now he gets back to a spot where Shadowfax is waiting, and the text tells us that he gets his bag and he gets on the horse. And interestingly, the text also says Aragorn hands Pippin to him all wrapped up. So
yeah, this threw me.
It threw me too. So we get going to Pippin. Gandalf picked him up in his arms. And You're going to come with me, young man. This thing's fast. Then he runs to the place where he'd slept. Shadowfax was there. He gets the bag across his shoulders, leaps up on the horse's back, and now Aragorn hands Pippin to him.
And then suddenly Aragorn is lifting Pippin. And maybe it's simply that Gandalf can't possibly get on the horse while holding the
You can't
Hobbit.
leap up on the horse's back while you're holding Pippin. So he hands him to Aragorn briefly, but it's not mentioned.
Yeah.
And then Aragorn says, here you go.
Yeah, that's got
one extra large burrito to go.
The best kind of burrito.
Oh, he's wrapped in a cloak and blanket. I mean, I could just see him right now.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah.
Would you like green sauce with that or red sauce?
Always got to be green sauce, especially with your hobbits.
It's a burra hobbit. What's a burra hobbit,
Bert?
Bert?
Terrible. That is terrible. A burra hobbit. I want burra hobbit memes now of hobbits stuffed in burritos.
Hobbits as burritos. I think that's brilliant.
This is what I want before my hiatus this year.
We will start a trend, I am sure of it. Yeah. That is great, great stuff. Man. I don't even know where to go with that, but that's brilliant. All right. So Gandalf tells Aragorn, look, whatever you do, follow quickly. And then he's off, right? Away Shadowfax.
Mm-hmm. And Shadowfax goes.
Yes, he does.
Spurning the earth. And I love this phrase.
Isn't that a great phrase? Yeah.
Well, at first I'm thinking of the modern meaning of spurn, meaning to treat with contempt.
To reject, right? Like, ew,
Yeah, which is a super cool way to describe Shadowfax, kicking up.
I disdain the earth.
Yeah, because basically, I defy you, gravity. That's kind of the image you get from that.
I think there is some of that.
But I looked it up, and actually the archaic meaning of spurn is simply to strike, tread, or push away with the foot. So there's
even better.
Something very literal here as well.
Quite. Oh, I love that.
And then after the part that I read, we get this little moment between Merry and Aragorn where Merry is actually complaining a little bit that Pippin got exactly what he wanted. He wanted to ride with Gandalf. He wanted to get a chance to learn some things that were going on. And, he gets it. I wanted to sleep, but I'm not getting that.
I'm not getting any of that. I've been trying to go to sleep now for a long time. I told Gandalf I was tired.
I mean, never mind the danger and the traumatic experience.
No.
But, but I just wanted to sleep, and I can't have what I want.
There's definitely some bitterness going on there. I mean, he even says, instead of being turned into a stone himself to stand here forever as a warning. I mean, you'd like to think Merry doesn't mean that he would prefer that to be the outcome.
No, of course not. Just a bit of hobbitishness. But
a little bit. Absolutely. Yeah. But Aragorn points out, Merry, you might have done worse. We just simply don't know. Who can say, he says. But now, of course, it's your luck. And by luck, I think, we're talking fate or destiny to go with me. By the way, right now. So get ready and bring any extra stuff that Pippin left. Yeah.
Yeah. So get ready. Let's go.
Right now.
Yeah.
No, I mean now. Come on. You've got a young son. You know what this means, right?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Okay, son, get ready now.
Come on. We got to go.
No, turn off the video game now.
Oh, yeah.
Does the word now mean something different to you? Yeah.
And apparently the word okay means something different to them, too, because
very
the
much
answer is
so.
always okay.
Yeah, and 5 minutes later. Yeah.
Okay. Are you coming?
Don't
Okay.
get me started, man. Don't
Yeah.
get me started.
Anyway. Well, that's a wrap for Aragorn, Gimli, Legolas, Merry, Theoden, and Éomer.
Oh my goodness, it sure is, isn't it?
Because we're not going to see them until Book
No.
5, Chapter 2.
You're right.
Which is, what is that, 15 months away for us?
15, 16 months. Yeah,
Yeah.
depending on how long it takes to get started. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That's a very long time from now.
time to retire those voices for a little bit.
Well, yeah. The good news is maybe people will forget what they sounded like and I'll be able to start back over. Maybe I'll give Gimli a Canadian accent. I'm kidding. I don't know where
I don't think you want to do that.
No.
All right.
So we're leaving them behind, but we're not leaving Gandalf and Pippin behind, are we?
No, we're going to stay with Gandalf and Pippin and Shadowfax if we can keep up.
Well,
Because
yeah,
they're moving pretty fast, aren't they? Why don't you go ahead and read?
they are, and I shall. Over the plains, Shadowfax was flying, needing no urging and no guidance. Less than an hour had passed, and they had reached the fords of Ison and crossed them. The mound of the riders and its cold spears lay gray behind them. Pippin was recovering. He was warm, but the wind in his face was keen and refreshing. He was with Gandalf. The horror of the stone and of the hideous shadow over the moon was fading. Things left behind in the mists of the mountains or in a passing dream. He drew a deep breath. I did not know you rode bareback, Gandalf, he said. You haven't a saddle or a bridle. I do not ride elf fashion except on Shadowfax, said Gandalf. But Shadowfax will have no harness. You do not ride Shadowfax. He is willing to carry you, or not. If he is willing, that is enough. It is then his business to see that you remain on his back, unless you jump off into the air. How fast is he going? Asked Pippin. Fast by the wind, but very smooth. And how light his footfalls are. He is running now as fast as the swiftest horse could gallop, answered Gandalf. But that is not fast for him. Well, you're not kidding. That's very much he's going to show you his paces.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, this is nothing, man. And
Yeah.
we're only doing 100, but I'm only in third gear, bro.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Watch this.
that's right. Let me turn on the nitrous. Oh, man.
I don't even want to imagine Shadowfax with nitrous, man.
Neither do I.
Where would the button be?
I don't want to know. I don't want to know where the exhaust is, but I think that's obvious.
Yeah. So we are on a very fast road trip here. I mean, Shadowfax is flying. I mean, not literally flying, like
Well, no.
flying like a Balrog flies.
No.
But he either knows or he senses, maybe he intuits from Gandalf that there is urgency here.
Mhm.
And he doesn't need to be told, does he?
No. He is really moving fast. Like you said, flying as a Balrog does, without wings. Just want to repeat
Mhm.
that one more time. This creature is flying.
Yes. Not flying, but
It
flying.
lacks wings. That's right. Just being clear. All right. So in an hour, this not flying horse reaches the fords with Gandalf and Pippin. Now, Hammond and Skull point out that the manuscripts at Marquette tell us that this is a distance, by the way, of 14 miles. Now, they took 5 hours to cover 16 miles earlier that night from Isengard to Dol Baran. So this is a huge change in pace.
Now, I wonder how much of that is because it's only, one rider on one horse with
Well, yeah,
a big
with
cargo.
a very large bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Versus like, a whole company of riders.
That's true. And they were not in a hurry.
And how much of that is just Shadowfax? I mean, I think both are factors here, right?
Yeah, of course.
Because one person can ride faster than a whole company of people anyway. But
Mhm.
still, that's a big difference.
It is a big difference. 14 miles in an hour, less than an hour, is moving pretty quick. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've gone slower than that in a car.
I bet you have. I've been in your car, so I bet you.
Oh,
you have.
please. Stop it, you.
I'm giving you a hard time, man.
You live in Southern California. When
That's
do you
true.
get above 25?
I'm lucky to go 14 miles an hour, man.
Anyway, Hammond and Skull also point out that Scheme says Gandalf and Pippin left Dol Baran at 11:30 p.m. So it's past midnight now on March 6th.
That it is. And Pippin is recovering, and I love this because we see a wonderful, simple, one-sentence explanation of why he was with Gandalf. Enough said.
That's wonderful.
It is, and it speaks volumes, doesn't it?
That is just wonderful. It does. Yeah. Oh, man. And it's a powerful effect, too. I mean, even the horror and the trauma of looking into the stone,
Mhm.
Sauron's mental assault on his very mind.
Yeah. I mean,
That's fading. That's
wow.
fading like a passing dream.
That's right, which is exactly why I need to keep the Palantír far, far away from him.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pippin notices that Gandalf is riding without any tack. He
Yeah.
doesn't have a saddle, bridle, bit, nothing.
No.
Glorfindel style. And
That's
Gandalf
right.
explains that that's not how he usually rides, but Shadowfax is an exception.
I love this. He says, you don't ride Shadowfax. Either carries you or he doesn't. That's a good way of
Yeah.
putting it. Shadowfax is not a beast to be broken and tamed and ridden.
Right.
He is a sentient creature who will choose to carry you or will reject the idea of carrying you.
Yeah.
But Pippin has another question. How fast is he going? Which is a question that, you should ask, really, when things are going pretty quickly.
I mean, apparently he's going 14 miles an hour, but okay.
Apparently. Well, on average. So he's probably going faster than that in spurts.
Probably so. Yeah, good point. And it sure seems fast by the wind.
Yeah.
But it's very smooth, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And Gandalf points out something really, really interesting, that he's running as fast as the fastest horse could gallop. Now, tell me a little bit about the difference between just running and galloping.
Well, that's the thing. That whole line led me to do some research on horse movement, which I just, me. I go off on whatever tangent I can find.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, there are 4 natural gaits that horses have. There's a walk, a trot, a canter or lope, and a gallop. Now, at first, I assumed that since he's running as fast as the fastest horse could gallop, he must be using the trot. But equine expert and friend of the show, Debbie B., said that this can be a very jarring gait, and Pippin would definitely have had something to say were this the case. Apparently, though, the canter isn't especially smooth either. But Debbie was telling me that there are some horses that have additional gaits. Like those 4 are standard to all horses, but there are certain breeds that have additional 4-beat gaits, for instance, that would be a smooth ride, but that would use less energy than a trot or a canter, enabling the horse to endure for a longer period of time.
Oh, that's interesting.
That doesn't surprise me. I mean, he is a Maris after all. He's descended from the horses of Valinor.
I mean, he's going to be, whatever the best horses can do, he's going to be able to do it. Yeah.
I mean, I suspect that Orome had quite the breeding program going on and that Nahar got some amazing stud fees.
He didn't do it for the money, though.
No, it's not for the
Just
money.
leaving that there.
That's right. I didn't do this for the money.
All right, so let's bring it back in.
We probably should.
I don't like where this is going.
No, I don't either.
So Gandalf gives us a little geography lesson.
That's right. He says the White Mountains are coming up. He points out the Thryhirn, which we talked about. Wow. It feels like it was a long time ago, doesn't it? Back when
I
we got
know,
to
totally,
Helm's Deep. Yeah. And he explains also, soon we're going to reach the fork in the road near Helm's Deep, where one direction would take us to the Deeping Combe.
That's right.
But that's not where we're going.
Nope.
So, and that's where I'm going to have you pick up, surprisingly, where Pippin's quiet again.
All right.
Which is rare.
I think he's processing. There's a lot that's gone on.
He might be. Fair enough.
Pippin was silent again for a while. He heard Gandalf singing softly to himself, murmuring brief snatches of rhyme in many tongues, as the miles ran under them. At last, the wizard passed into a song of which the hobbit caught the words. A few lines came clear to his ears through the rushing of the wind. Tall ships and tall kings 3 times 3. What brought they from the founded land over the flowing sea? 7 stars and 7 stones and 1 white tree. What are you saying, Gandalf? Asked Pippin. I was just running over some of the rhymes of lore in my mind, answered the wizard. Hobbits, I suppose, have forgotten them, even those that they ever knew. No, not all, said Pippin. And we have many of our own, which wouldn't interest you, perhaps. But I've never heard this one. What is it about? The 7 stars and 7 stones. About the Palantír of the kings of old, said Gandalf. And what are they? The name meant that which looks far away. The Orthanc stone was one. Then it was not made? Not made... Pippin hesitated. By the enemy? No, said Gandalf. Nor by Saruman. It is beyond his art, and beyond Sauron's too. The Palantír came from beyond Westerness, from Eldamar. The Noldor made them. Fëanor himself maybe wrought them in days so long ago that the time cannot be measured in years. But there is nothing that Sauron cannot turn to evil uses. Alas for Saruman, it was his downfall, as I now perceive. Perilous to us all are the devices of an art deeper than we possess ourselves. Yet he must bear the blame. Fool, to keep it secret for his own profit. No word did he ever speak of it to any of the council.
That's right. So going back to the beginning of that passage, then Pippin is hearing Gandalf singing to himself, which is always encouraging, in various languages with bits of rhyme. And I have to say, the first thing that comes to my mind is, man, I want to know what he's singing about. These are more textual ruins, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, he says he's been running through some rhymes of lore, but we have no idea what these are. I can't,
Right.
It's got to be some really cool oral tradition that he's got memorized that he's just running through. And this is amazing. Yeah.
And that they're in different languages, which I love.
Right.
Brief snatches of rhyme in many tongues. How
Yeah.
cool is that? Yeah.
I'm sure there's lots of Quenya in there, some Sindarin in there.
Mhm.
Who knows what else? And then finally, we get some Westron, and Pippin's
Yeah,
like,
there we
okay,
go. Pippin's like, I can hear that one.
I
Yeah.
can hear this one. I can understand a few lines of this. So
Mhm.
let's talk about this song, shall we?
Yeah, we should. We should.
Tall ships and tall kings.
Mhm.
Now, this is the fleet of the faithful escaping the downfall of Numenor, led by the tall kings.
That's right. And 3 times 3 has to do with those kings and the ships, right? There were a total of 3 kings, Elendil and his sons Isildur and Anarion, and a total
Right.
of 9 ships in the fleet, 3 times 3. Now, what did those ships bring over? 7 stars, 7 stones, and 1 white tree. Now,
Mhm.
the tree is, of course, the scion of Nimloth the Fair that Isildur obtained, I would add, at great peril to himself.
Oh,
That would become the first tree of Gondor, planted in Minas Ithil.
Hero moment. Love that story.
Oh, I know. That is such a great part of that story.
Yeah.
The Akadabeth is filled with great bits, but that is one of the
Yeah.
I just get
Yeah.
chills every time I read that.
Yep.
It certainly, people are always willing to bash Isildur and his failure to get rid of the ring.
He made some poor choices late in life, for sure.
Yeah.
His later albums weren't quite as good as his early ones, but man, the early stuff was great.
It was great.
Yeah.
It really was. So now the 7 stones, of course, are the Palantír, and the 7 stars are the emblem of Elendil. Now, according to Tolkien's 1966 index, that emblem originally represented the single stars on the banners of each of 7 ships of 9 that bore a Palantír. So each of the ships that had one, so there were 2 ships that, like, I don't have a star, man. But the 7 ones that did had a single star on their banner. So
Right.
then we end up with this emblem with 7 stars. It's great.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And I've actually heard that question asked in groups
Yes.
before.
Yeah.
And there's the answer. Why 7 stars?
Mm-hmm.
And because we can, let's read from the Akalabaith.
Oh, always. Never a
any
bad
chance we
reason to
get.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So first we'll read a little bit about the preparation of the ships. Elendil did all that his father had bidden, and his ships lay off the east coast of the land, and the faithful put aboard their wives and their children and their heirlooms, and great store of goods. Many things there were of beauty and power, such as the Numenorians had contrived in the days of their wisdom, vessels and jewels and scrolls of lore written in scarlet and black.
Mm.
And 7 stones they had, the gift of the Eldar. But in the ship of Isildur was guarded the young tree, the scion of Nimloth the Fair.
And then Elendil had remained in Romenna, refusing the summons of the king when he set forth to war, and avoiding the soldiers of Sauron that came to seize him and drag him to the fires of the temple. He went aboard his ship and stood off from the shore, waiting on the time. There he was protected by the land from the great draught of the sea that drew all towards the abyss, and afterwards he was sheltered from the first fury of the storm. But when the devouring wave rolled over the land, and Numenor toppled to its fall, then he would have been overwhelmed, and would have deemed it the lesser grief to perish, for no wrench of death could be more bitter than the loss and agony of that day. The great wind took him, wilder than any wind that men had known, roaring from the west, and it swept his ships far away, and it rent their sails and snapped their masts, hunting the unhappy men like straws upon the water. 9 ships there were, 4 for Elendil, and for Isildur 3, and for Anarion 2. And they fled before the black gale out of the twilight of doom to the darkness of the world. And the deeps rose beneath them in towering anger, and waves like unto mountains, moving with great caps of writhen snow, bore them up amid the wreckage of the clouds, and after many days cast them away upon the shores of Middle-earth. Oh,
Wow.
oh,
What a description. What
You're not
what a
kidding.
narrative, man. That's just amazing.
it is such an amazing story. Oh,
And now you know the story behind these 6 lines of verse.
that's right.
But Pippin doesn't have the advantage of listening to the Prancing Pony podcast while he's on this long road trip like you do.
That's
So
right.
he asks Gandalf to explain what he's seeing.
Yeah, it's a reasonable request. And so Gandalf begins the explanation with a little bit of a diss towards hobbits, right? Oh, I'm thinking of the rhymes of lore. Y'all probably never knew very many, and, well, if you did, your hobbits, you'd have forgotten them by now.
And by the way, have I told you recently that you're a fool?
Condescend much, Gandalf? Yeah.
Oh, man. Pippin, I like Pippin's response here. He defends himself.
He does, and the hobbits in general. That's right.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, we haven't forgotten them all. Come on.
No.
But he admits that he hasn't heard this one.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, so can you give me some information instead of just, insulting my entire race? And
nope, can't do that. I'll just keep insulting hobbits. That's right.
So then Gandalf says, all right, fine, sure. And then he begins this exposition about the Palantír.
Right. He starts by saying it means that which looks far away, like you explained in last week's philology fair.
I did try. And then Pippin infers that this means they weren't made by Sauron, and Gandalf says that's correct. They weren't made by Sauron or by Saruman.
That's right.
They actually came from beyond Westerness, from Eldamar. Now, if you remember, that's Elvenhome back in Valinor in the First Age. And they were made by the Noldor, possibly by Feanor himself.
That's right. And this is actually attested by the index of names in the Silmarillion, where it says made by Feanor. Yeah.
Yep.
And beyond that, we also get in chapter 6 of the Silmarillion of Feanor and the Unchaining of Melkor, we learn that Feanor made lots of crystals, including ones, quote, wherein things far away could be seen small but clear, as with the eyes of the eagles of Manwë. Very clearly describing a Palantír.
That's right. So I just want to pause on something that's implied here. So this is beyond the art of Sauron.
Yeah.
And it's also beyond the art of Saruman to create a Palantír.
That it is.
And they were made by Feanor. So that's just a really good reminder of just how great of a craftsman Feanor actually was.
That's a very good point.
He wasn't just the greatest of the elves. He was actually greater than, well, at least these two, Maiar of Aule. I mean, that's
pretty impressive.
Significant.
Yeah.
It is.
Not a surprise. I mean, given that he also crafted the Silmarils, we know
True.
that he was capable of creating things that were far beyond what anybody else could create. Though, granted, the Silmarils also became hallowed. Yes, I think, some of their awesomeness came from being hallowed by Varda. But,
yeah. But yeah, he was capable of making things nobody else could make, and he was also capable of burning things that nobody else could burn, or would burn, I guess.
Oh, yeah, just ask the Teleri. I know.
Yep.
Poor guys.
Poor guys.
Nice boats. Gonna give them to us or not? It'd be a shame if anything happened to your boats. You know what I mean?
I'll never forget. We really don't think that you should take these. I'm going to kill you.
Yeah. That's such overreaction.
Yeah.
That's so Feanor. All right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So the Palantír were not evil to begin with.
Right.
But Gandalf says Sauron is capable of turning anything to evil.
Oh, yeah.
And he points out something which is very important, that it was actually the stone that was the downfall of Saruman.
That's right. That's right. Gandalf explains that there is great danger in using things, and I love this quote, that are of an art deeper than we possess ourselves.
Huh.
It's an interesting insight. I mean,
that could mean my iPhone.
I was going to say, but there is danger in using those things, isn't there, in some way?
That's true. There is, yeah.
I mean, I thought the same thing at first. I'm like, well, that's just about every piece of technology I have. But then, there's danger there, isn't there?
Yeah, there really is.
And then, of course, he rightly criticizes Saruman's decision to keep it secret and for his own gain. Yeah.
He never spoke of it to the council.
That's right.
We had no idea that he had it. And
no, none.
Moving past the part that I read, I mean, he talks about the fact that, we hadn't really thought about the seeing stones. We they were kind of forgotten by men. Right?
They were, and we'll see for good reason why. So many of them were gone and for so long, but we'll get to that in a bit.
So, they weren't really a factor in any of our plans.
Yeah, that's right.
But then this mention of men prompts Pippin to ask a question, and I'll let you pick up there.
What did the men of old use them for? Asked Pippin, delighted and astonished, getting answers to so many questions and wondering how long it would last. To see far off and to converse in thought with one another, said Gandalf. In that way they long guarded and united the realm of Gondor. They set up stones at Minas Anor and at Minas Ithil, and at Orthanc in the Ring of Isengard. The chief and master of these was under the Dome of the Stars at Osgiliath before its ruin. The three others were far away in the north. In the house of Elrond, it is told that they were at Annuminus, and Amon-Sul, and Elendil's stone was on the Tower Hills that look towards Mithlon, in the Gulf of Lune, where the grey ships lie. Each Palantír replied to each, but all those in Gondor were ever open to the view of Osgiliath.
All right. Well, Pippin is absolutely thrilled that Gandalf is answering questions.
Oh, yeah.
And so then he asks a fairly obvious one. Hey, what were these stones used for?
It's a good question. Now, I find this interesting because earlier, he was arguing with Merry, telling him that Gandalf was even more secretive than before, which kind of explains why he's not sure how long this is going to last.
Yeah, so he's going to make the most of it while he's got it. Seems to work in his favor, at least for now, because Gandalf keeps on talking.
Yes, he does.
He explains the function and the use of the Palantír, the fact that they were used to see far off. After all, that is their name, as we talked about last time.
It's what it says on the tin, man. Yeah.
That's right. And this is interesting. They were also used by men to converse in thought with each other.
Yeah.
Now, I thought this was really fascinating because we've talked about this before. Men can't usually converse in thought using Osanwe as well as elves or Valar can.
That's right. Osanwe Kenta says that the incarnate's perception is dimmed by the Hroa, or body. And we know that men aren't as attuned to their Hroar as elves are. But the same essay tells us that transmission of thought requires strengthening to be effective. Strengthening can be by affinity, by urgency, or by authority.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there must have been something that was strengthening their thought that allowed men to be able to communicate with these things.
Yeah.
And again, Tolkien talks about these 3 different ways of strengthening, and he defines them all, but they're all basically what they sound like. So affinity is basically kinship, love, and sympathy. Urgency is basically when someone's got great need to send a message. And so that strengthens them, or, simply authority, which is what it sounds like. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm curious, which of these do you think it was that made it possible for the Númenóreans to communicate with each other with these stones? Maybe a little of all?
Yes.
Yeah, it's exactly it, right? I mean, authority, obviously, right? Because the stones were given to them to use as they will.
And only the ones who had authority could use them.
Right.
I think affinity is the big one. I'm thinking of the fact that we read a lot in the section on the Palantír in Unfinished Tales about stones being in accord with one another, which really is kind of a synonym with affinity. There's sort of a kinship or an agreement between them. So I can see that.
That's an interesting thought. So maybe it's the affinity of the stones themselves,
right,
that actually strengthens the affinity of their minds. Yeah, I can get there. That makes sense.
Urgency, yes and no. I mean, there are times where it's just an update on the news, right? So it's not necessarily urgent information. So I'm not sure that's always relevant, but I'm sure there were times where that would.
There were certainly times when it would have been, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, sometimes you're just calling to say hi, Mom, it's been a while, that kind of thing.
I guess. Oh, goodness.
Very interesting.
Well, the whole point, though, is that in doing these things, however they did them, affinity, urgency, or authority, the stones protected Gondor, and then Gandalf goes ahead and gives us their locations. First, he talks about the minor stones in Gondor. Minas Anor, which of course would become Minas Tirith, Minas Ithil, becoming Minas Morgul, and then Orthanc.
Right, but the Master Stone was under the Dome of Stars in Osgiliath.
That's right. Now, the tower, the Dome of Stars, was destroyed and the Palantír lost in the Anduin when Eldacar was besieged during the Civil War in 1437. Now, that's more than 1,500 years ago.
Wow, good long time.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so that's 4 of the stones. And then Gandalf says there are also 3 stones in the north that were also open to Osgiliath. And that's the stones at Annúminas, Amon-Sul, which we know better as Weathertop, and Elendil's stone on the Tower Hills.
Now, the first 2 of those were lost with Arvedui in 1975. That's more than 1,000 years ago.
Yep.
I mean, I know the stones have been around for a long time. You know where I'm going.
Stone's been around since before 1975.
Yeah, long before 1975. But, 1,000 years, 1,500 years, that is a long time.
Yeah. And for a second, I'm thinking about the Rolling Stones.
That's exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And so that leaves Elendil's stone. But Elendil's stone is different than the others, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. Appendix A tells us that stone was unlike the others and not in accord with them. It looked only to the sea. Elendil set it there so that he could look back with straight sight and see Eressia in the vanished west. But the bent seas below covered Númenor forever.
Man. Well, it's no wonder, frankly, that Gandalf didn't know that this stone was still around. I mean, the Master Stone had been lost for over 1,500 years. And the two other useful northern stones had been lost 1,000 years ago. Minas Ithil was captured over 3,000 years ago, so that stone's gone. So that leaves only the stones at Minas Tirith and Orthanc. So no wonder he wasn't thinking about this. No wonder the council hadn't been thinking about this.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Who knew that those stones just happened to be around?
Yeah.
And just happened to be factors in the war here.
Yeah. Now, we will talk shortly about where this leads Gandalf to think. If the Orthanc stone is around, what else? I mean, he now knows that the Minas Ithil stone is around. So he starts to process that, and we'll get to that. But first, before we do, you're going to tell us a little bit more about this. Go ahead and continue with Gandalf's description.
All right. Very useful, no doubt, that was to Saruman. Yet it seems that he was not content. Further and further abroad he gazed, until he cast his gaze upon Barad-dûr. Then he was caught. Who knows where the lost stones of Arnor and Gondor now lie, buried or drowned deep? But one at least Sauron must have obtained and mastered to his purposes. I guess that it was the Ithil stone, for he took Minas Ithil long ago and turned it into an evil place. Minas Morgul it has become. Easy it is now to guess how quickly the roving eye of Saruman was trapped and held, and how ever since he has been persuaded from afar, and daunted when persuasion would not serve. The biter bit, the hawk under the eagle's foot, the spider in a steel web. How long, I wonder, has he been constrained to come off into his glass for inspection and instruction, and the Orthanc stone so bent towards Barad-dûr that, if any save a will of adamant now looks into it, it will bear his mind and sight swiftly thither. And how it draws one to itself! Have I not felt it? Even now my heart desires to test my will upon it, to see if I could not wrench it from him and turn it where I would, to look across the wide seas of water and of time to Tirion the fair, and perceive the unimaginable hand and mind of Feanor at their work, while both the white tree and the golden were in flower. He sighed and fell silent.
Oh, wow. I know we're going to get to that at the end of this portion of the discussion, but that is a moment. And you can really tell Gandalf is remembering that.
Yeah. Thinking back to his old days, man.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So Gandalf begins to speculate about the uses that Saruman would have had for the Orthanc stone. He, could see small images of things far off, but also in the distant past, as Gandalf talks about here.
Right.
But eventually his roving eye got caught looking at Barad-dûr.
Yeah.
You ever had your roving eye caught? You don't want to fess up to that.
No.
All right.
No, I certainly don't. And Gandalf guesses that the stone Sauron got his hands on was the Ithil stone. And
that's right.
We know that actually turns out to be the case.
That's exactly right.
And he gathers that Sauron would have persuaded Saruman when possible and daunted him when necessary.
Oh, I love that combination, right?
Yeah.
Persuasion, but also I've got daunting in my back pocket,
Right. Intimidation if I have to. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So now that quote about the biter bit, etc., refers to the fact that the cheater is himself cheated, right? In this case, Saruman, the persuader / daunter, is persuaded and daunted. That's what he does. That's his job.
Absolutely.
But now it's happening to him.
But he was persuaded and daunted by Sauron.
That's right.
And now Gandalf describes this very interesting situation where the Orthanc stone is sort of locked in place to the Ithil stone, which is now in Barad-dûr, so that pretty much anybody who looks into it can't help but look straight to Barad-dûr and only to Barad-dûr.
Yeah, that stone is essentially a one-way deal. You can't use it to look anywhere else at this point unless you have an incredible will. Now, Gandalf admits there's a lure, there's a pull of the stone that, he wants to see if he's strong enough to break it free of that lock and to use the stone freely. And I love what he says he'd do if he could.
First of all, it's got to be very tempting, right? I mean, for somebody like Gandalf, not that Gandalf is a proud sort, but, he knows his own power and he's got to be thinking, I wonder if I could do it. I wonder if I could do it. But,
it's got to be tempting. I mean, he's Gandalf, 2.0, reincarnated. Yeah.
He probably would be able to, but he doesn't want to try.
No.
Even though, as you said, he has this little dream. He wants to look across the sea, and not only across the sea in space, but also back in time to Tirion. Oh, he wants to see Feanor at work while the trees were in flower. It's like, I want to go back and look at the world the way it was before all this bad happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
This, we talked about this when we first read this. This is a memory. This isn't like, I'd like to do this. Like you and I might say, oh, I'd love to be able to look back in time and be a fly on the wall in that meeting between Tolkien and Lewis or whatever. No, this is something Gandalf literally remembers. It is a pre-incarnate memory.
Yeah, that's right. He experienced this and he wants to remember it.
Yeah, it must be incredibly alluring. Yeah.
It's a bit like the temptation of the elves, I feel like. That temptation to halt time and want things to stay the same. Only here he's tempted to go back and remember things the way they were. But I think it's worth pointing out something in Unfinished Tales that I think slots in pretty nicely here. In the section on the Palantír, we read that in his talk to Peregrine as they rode on Shadowfax from Dol Baran, Gandalf's immediate object was to give the hobbit some idea of the history of the Palantír, so that he might begin to realize the ancientry, dignity, and power of things that he had presumed to meddle with. He was not concerned to exhibit his own processes of discovery and deduction, except in its last point, to explain how Sauron came to have control of them, so that they were perilous for anyone, however exalted, to use.
So far, so good, we're with you, right? But then Christopher points out that Gandalf's mind was at the same time earnestly busy with the stones, considering the bearings of the revelation at Dol Baran upon many things that he had observed and pondered. I love this. I'm setting aside the quote for a minute to point out that he's now connecting the dots between things he already knows and the reality that, oh, this is the stone of Orthanc, and, oh, Sauron had the stone of Minas Ithil. So, what are the things that he's thinking about, that he's connecting? The wide knowledge of events far away possessed by Denethor, and his appearance of premature old age, first observable when he was not much above 60 years old, although he belonged to a race and family that still normally had longer lives than other men. Undoubtedly, Gandalf's haste to reach Minas Tirith, in addition to the urgency of the time and the imminence of war, was quickened by his sudden fear that Denethor also had made use of a Palantír, the Anor stone, and his desire to judge what effect this had had on him, whether in the crucial test of desperate war it would not prove that he, like Saruman, was no longer to be trusted and might surrender to Mordor. Gandalf's dealings with Denethor on arrival in Minas Tirith and in the following days, and all things that they are reported to have said to one another, must be viewed in the light of this doubt in Gandalf's mind.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's interesting. So Gandalf already knows some things that we already know, but he's kind of drawing some conclusions from them, or fearing some conclusions that might be drawn from them about Denethor.
Yeah, he's not only concerned that Denethor is using a Palantír, which we'll find out later he has.
Right, of course.
But that he is going to ally himself with Sauron the way Saruman did.
Right.
Now, fortunately, that's not the case, but...
Right, and here's an interesting difference between book Denethor and movie Denethor, where...
True.
Movie Denethor is basically ready to... Well, not basically. He does say, give up.
Throw down your arms, right.
Yeah, whereas we know book Denethor will never do that.
No.
But it's very interesting.
It is interesting. And it also points out sort of the distinction between authorized users, if you will. Saruman was not only was he not an heir of Elendil, he wasn't even a steward. He had no legal authority to use the stone. He had no
authority at all, yeah.
Denethor, on the other hand, does have legal authority to use the stone.
Yeah.
And it's that power, that authority, I should say, that enabled him in some way to stand up against Sauron and not to be defeated the way Saruman has. But we'll get to that.
Very interesting point. Yeah, we will. Yeah, and we will actually get into a nice little footnote on this, won't we? When we encounter Denethor in the first chapter of Book 5, which will not be until the fall of next year.
The fall of next year. Wow. So over a year away, yeah.
Yep.
Long time off.
But with that, why don't we go ahead and keep on reading? We're learning a lot here, and so is Pippin.
We are. That's right. He has learned a lesson, hasn't he?
I wish I had known all this before, said Pippin. I had no notion of what I was doing.
Oh, yes, you had, said Gandalf. You knew you were behaving wrongly and foolishly, and you told yourself so, though you did not listen. I did not tell you all this before, because it is only by musing on all that has happened that I have at last understood, even as we ride together. But if I had spoken sooner, it would not have lessened your desire, or made it easier to resist. On the contrary, no, the burned hand teaches best. After that, advice about fire goes to the heart.
It does, said Pippin. If all the 7 stones were laid out before me now, I should shut my eyes and put my hands in my pockets.
Good, said Gandalf. That is what I hoped.
But I should like to know, Pippin began.
Mercy! Cried Gandalf. If the giving of information is to be the cure of your inquisitiveness, I shall spend all the rest of my days in answering you. What more do you want to know?
The names of all the stars, and of all living things, and the whole history of Middle-earth, and over heaven and of the sundering seas, laughed Pippin. Of course, what less? I am not in a hurry tonight. For the moment I was just wondering about the Black Shadow. I heard you shout, Messenger of Mordor. What was it? What could it do at Isengard?
It was a black rider on wings, a Nazgûl, said Gandalf. It could have taken you away to the Dark Tower.
But it was not coming from me, was it? Faltered Pippin. I mean, it didn't know that I'd...
Of course not, said Gandalf. It is 200 leagues or more in straight flight from Barad-dûr to Orthanc, and even a Nazgûl would take a few hours to fly between them.
That's where we'll stop for now.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So going back to the beginning of that passage, we see Pippin basically just claiming naivete here. Look, if I had known all this, maybe I wouldn't have done what I did.
Yeah, Gandalf doesn't buy that for a second. Right.
And we don't either.
No. You knew what you were doing, and you knew that what you were doing was both wrong and foolish. And you even told yourself that, which is funny that Gandalf mentions it, because Pippin did tell himself.
He absolutely did. Yep.
Gandalf didn't literally hear him because he was asleep, but yeah.
Yep. But then Gandalf says, look, I couldn't have told you these things earlier because I've only just now worked them out myself.
That's right. And even if he had, though, that would not have changed the temptation.
No. So had to play out the way it did. And then this wonderful bit of wisdom, the burned hand teaches best.
Oh, I love that line.
Love that little proverb, a little bit of Gandalf wisdom there. And there are some cases where that is true, aren't there?
Absolutely. Now, Pippin appears to have learned his lesson. Again, in theory, right? We don't have the stone in front of him, so he can't tell for sure. But, he says, you could put all 7 of them right out in front of me. I'd close my eyes, put my hands in my pockets. Okay, sure, I believe that when I see it, but it's a good start. Yeah.
So by the way, can you put some stones out in front of me? Let's test this theory a little bit.
Right. Can we try? Huh?
I'm sure that's not how he means it, but it could be taken that way.
I know, kind of does.
But then Pippin begins to ask yet another question, and Gandalf's patience is starting to near its end, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I love it.
Exasperated response, but he does still say, okay, what more do you want to know?
Right.
He's getting a little bit testy about it, but he still allows the question.
Yeah, that's right. He doesn't tell him to shut up or stop asking questions. He even says, what more do you want to know? But it's more like, what more do you want to know? You can see him rolling his eyes from here,
right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love Pippin's tongue-in-cheek reply. This is so hobbity and so Pippin. I want to know everything.
It is very Pippin because of its kind of like, kind of flippant tone. And yet, this is the first time that I think Pippin has really expressed any real curiosity about the world, isn't it?
I think so, now that you mention it. You're right.
Like the way he says it is very Pippin, and yet I feel like the thing he's saying is something's changed in Pippin. And I don't know if it's directly as a result of the Palantír. Maybe he's gained a little wisdom and he wants to learn more about all this meddling in the affairs of wizards that he's stuck in the middle of.
That's a good point, yeah.
Or what? But I do think we're seeing some change in Pippin. I think this is a bit of character arc for Pippin here.
I think it is. You're right.
But what he really wants to know right now is what that black shadow was. Was it a messenger of Mordor?
That's right. Well, Gandalf tells him straight up it was a black rider. And you know what those are. You've seen them. It's a Nazgûl on a winged steed. It was capable of taking you to Sauron in his dark tower. That's a terrible thought.
Right. And then Pippin naively thinks that, was that winged Nazgûl coming for me because I used the Palantír?
He's coming to take me away. Ha ha, hee hee, ho ho.
Wow, I've not thought of that song in years, man.
Wow, that was a song I didn't expect to get stuck in my head at any point.
No, I can't believe that you managed that reference of all things.
Boy.
But Gandalf then clears that up. He basically points out what we pointed out in the last episode and again earlier today, which is that, look, it's over 200 leagues. That's 600 miles.
That's a long way.
As the crow flies. There's no chance.
No chance at all. Again, physics matter. Legolas, crazy eyes. Let's be generous, though, and say that a full 30 minutes has elapsed between the time Pippin looked in the stone and the time the winged Nazgûl arrived. So those 2 moments. Even if the Nazgûl had left immediately, like the vision that Pippin had of the Nazgûl kind of heading towards him when he was looking in the stone, he'd have had to travel at 1,200 miles per hour. Now, that is well past the sound barrier. In fact, depending on the altitude, that's about Mach 1.6. Again, because the speed of sound varies depending on your elevation. That's almost as fast as the Concorde used to fly. And for reference, it's nearly twice as fast as like the big Airbus A380 or Boeing 787 fly. Those usually fly between 650 to 700 miles an hour.
So you're talking
1,200.
like, sonic boom as the Nazgûl flies overhead. Yeah.
Well past the speed of sound.
Yeah. Wow.
So not going to happen.
No, this one isn't here for you, Pippin. But don't get too comfortable.
That's right. This is just a messenger, quite literally a messenger of Mordor. That's the point. The Palantír is not working right now.
Right.
But even if it was, it would have left before the Palantír stopped working, though, in fairness. Right?
That's a good point.
I mean, I said that, but I realize now, if it's 600 miles and the thing can fly even at 60 miles an hour, which is probably faster than it can fly, that's still a 10-hour flight.
Right.
But I bet Saruman's been too busy to use it because of the Ents and all of that.
Yeah, and we'll see in the next passage here. Gandalf actually explains why this Nazgûl has come here.
That's right. So let's go ahead and have you do that. That's where you're going to pick up.
All right. But Saruman certainly looked in the stone since the orc raid, and more of his secret thought, I do not doubt, has been read than he intended. A messenger has been sent to find out what he is doing, and after what has happened tonight, another will come, I think, and swiftly. So Saruman will come to the last pinch of the vice that he has put his hand in. He has no captive to send. He has no stone to see with, and cannot answer the summons. Saruman will only believe that he is withholding the captive, and refusing to use the stone. It will not help Saruman to tell the truth to the messenger. For Isengard may be ruined, yet he is still safe in Orthanc. So whether he will or no, he will appear a rebel. Yet he rejected us so as to avoid that very thing. What he will do in such a plight I cannot guess. He has power still, I think, while in Orthanc, to resist the 9 riders. He may try to do so. He may try to trap the Nazgûl, or at least to slay the thing on which it now rides the air. In that case, let Rohan look to its horses. But I cannot tell how it would fall out, well or ill for us. It may be that the counsels of the enemy will be confused, or hindered by his wrath with Saruman. It may be that he will learn that I was there, and stood upon the stairs of Orthanc, with hobbits at my tail, or that an heir of Elendil lives and stood beside me. If Wormtongue was not deceived by the armor of Rohan, he would remember Aragorn and the title that he claimed. That is what I fear. And so we fly, not from danger, but into greater danger. Every stride of Shadowfax bears you nearer to the land of shadow, Peregrine Took.
Well, then can you drop me off somewhere? Because I don't want to do that.
Nope.
So, yeah, going back to the beginning of the passage, Gandalf concludes that Saruman has looked in the stone and communicated with Sauron since the orc raid.
Orc raid. What's he talking about there?
Yeah, we need to talk on that, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's referring to the attack on Parthgalen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's talking about the attack on Helm's Deep, which was a full-blown assault. Not
that's hardly
really.
a raid, yeah.
Yeah. And it also didn't have anything to do with the ring, which is what Sauron's concerned about.
That's kind of where I'm thinking here, right? I mean, the orc raid is when they captured the hobbits.
Mm-hmm.
And Sauron knows they have captured hobbits. Because, of course, during that communication, since the orc raid, which for timeline reasons, that was 9 days ago now, so you should probably be aware of that, Saruman would not have been able to conceal his secret thoughts. That would have prompted a visit from a Nazgûl, maybe even the Witch King himself. We don't know which one this is.
Maybe, we don't know. And now, after Pippin looking into the stone, we can bet that another messenger is going to be coming very quickly.
Oh, yes.
And catching Saruman in the last pinch of the vice that he's put his hand
that's got
in.
to hurt. That's got to hurt, yeah.
You ever get your hand caught in a vice? It's not pleasant.
Yeah, it is not a pleasant thing at all. And Saruman really is in a bind now, isn't he? I mean, keep this in mind. Sauron thinks Saruman has a captive hobbit. He does not.
Right.
And keep in mind that a message regarding the capture of 2 hobbits would have gotten back to him via Grishnak, who met with a Nazgûl, probably this very one, at the river back on February 27th, just 8 days ago.
Not only that, Sauron also thinks Saruman has a Palantír and will get in touch. He does not, and he cannot.
New phone, who dis?
Right. I lost your number, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, when the Nazgûl arrives, even the truth is not going to help Saruman here.
No.
Is it?
No, it's not going to help. I had 2 captives They escaped.
Huh.
I lost a big battle because I'm an incompetent general trying to impress your boss.
Yeah.
The Ents locked me in, and my lackey threw the stone away.
That's like the worst excuse ever.
That's worse than
For
a dog
not-
ate my homework.
Yeah, that is terrible.
I don't think the Nazgûl are going to buy this one.
No, they're
Yeah.
not going to buy that. And so it's inevitably going to look like he's betrayed Sauron. All of those factors
yeah.
combined. Oh, man,
There's nothing that he can do that's going to change the appearance of this. Yeah.
there's too many ridiculous things stacked up there that Sauron is just not going to believe.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, in that circumstance, Gandalf has no idea what Saruman might do. I mean,
That's right.
he says he might be able to resist the Nazgûl while he's safe in Orthanc.
Yeah. I might even be able to kill the flying beast, in which case, look out Rohan. Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to come looking for a horse.
Hmm.
But there's lots of possibilities. He says on the
are.
good side, it might confuse or hinder Sauron's plans.
Mhm.
But on the bad side, Sauron might find out about me, Gandalf 2.0.
Or the hobbits.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and also the heir of Elendil.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So Hammond and Skull tell us that this set of lines about Aragorn being there were not added until the second edition in 1965. So
That's right.
we find out that Tolkien wrote to Houghton Mifflin, that was the American publisher, explaining that this edition stops a small hole in the narrative. Aragorn was not at Orthanc in the earlier version of the chapter. If recognized, he would certainly have been addressed by Saruman, end quote. So this is just another masterful bit of retconning on Tolkien's part. Saruman didn't say anything to Aragorn? Oh, no. Oh, wait. I'll just make sure Aragorn is wearing Rohirric armor so he wasn't recognized. Well played, Tollers. Well played.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And then Gandalf points out to Pippin that, that's the reason we're flying. But we are not flying from danger. We're actually
No.
flying towards greater danger because we're getting closer to Mordor with every stride.
Just in title, that makes me think of way back to The Hobbit, out of the frying pan into the fire. That's what's happening here.
Oh, very good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a good call out.
Mhm.
And Pippin doesn't really have anything to say in response to that. But
No.
Gandalf has a few more things to say. So
He sure does.
that's where you're going to pick up. And I can't believe it, Alan. This is our last reading of the season.
My goodness, it sure is. I can't do this now.
No pressure.
I'll do my best. See now, said Gandalf, the Westfold Dales are opening before us. Here we come back to the eastward road. The dark shadow yonder is the mouth of the Deeping Coombe. That way lies Aglarond and the Glittering Caves. Do not ask me about them. Ask Gimli if you meet again, and for the first time you may get an answer longer than you wish. You will not see the caves yourself, not on this journey. Soon they will be far behind. I thought you were going to stop at Helm's Deep, said Pippin. Where are you going, then? To Minas Tirith, for the seas of war surround it. Oh, and how far is that? Leagues upon leagues, answered Gandalf. Thrice as far as the dwellings of King Theoden, and they are more than 100 miles east from here, as the messengers of Mordor fly. Shadowfax must run a longer road. Which will prove the swifter? We shall ride now till daybreak, and that is some hours away. Then even Shadowfax must rest, in some hollow of the hills. At Edoras, I hope. Sleep if you can. You may see the first glimmer of dawn upon the golden roof of the house of Eor. And in 3 days thence you shall see the purple shadow of Mount Mindolluin, and the walls of the Tower of Denethor, white in the morning. Away now, Shadowfax! Run, Greatheart! Run as you have never run before! Now we are come to the lands where you have foaled, and every stone you know. Run now! Hope is in speed! Shadowfax tossed his head and cried aloud as if a trumpet had summoned him to battle. Then he sprang forward. Fire flew from his feet. Night rushed over him. As he fell slowly into sleep, Pippin had a strange feeling. He and Gandalf were still as stone, seated upon the statue of a running horse, while the world rolled away beneath his feet with a great noise of wind.
Well, that's a heck of a good end to the book.
It is.
But not to the season yet, because we still got
not
lots more to
quite.
talk about.
We do still have, that's right, thankfully.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they're continuing the ride, and Gandalf is going back to the geography lesson.
Yeah, as always.
As always, yeah. You got a hobbit with you got to school them.
Yeah, what do you see outside the window, right? You got to tell your kids. Yeah.
Right, there it is, kids. Look, Big Ben, Parliament.
There it is, the biggest ball of twine.
Yep. Westfold Dales opening before us. Then the road that heads east toward Edoras and ultimately to Minas Tirith. He points out the Deeping Coombe and mentions the Glittering Caves.
Yeah, ask Gimli about those, right? He'll tell you more than I will. I love that.
We're not stopping at that tourist attraction, kids. Sorry.
No,
but,
we're not.
Yeah.
No, but Pippin thought they were, right? He thought they were stopping at Helm's Deep.
Right. But Gandalf has other plans. We got to go to Minas Tirith before it's too late.
And now we know one of the reasons why. He is worried about Denethor.
Yeah, that's right. And it is a long, long way.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
3 times as far as Edoras. And Edoras is more than 100 miles as the crow flies, isn't it?
Yeah. And that puts Minas Tirith at least 300 miles away. But honestly, since we're talking about more than 100 miles as the crow flies and Shadowfax has to take a longer road, we're only talking closer to 400 miles to Minas Tirith.
Probably so. So we're going to ride through the night. Hopefully, we'll arrive at Edoras at dawn.
That would be nice. And 3 days later then, in other words, each day covering about 100 miles, we'll arrive at Minas Tirith in the morning.
That's assuming we don't get traffic.
That's right. You know, sometimes that junction there with the...
You never know. There could be an accident. There's a 5-horse pileup on the road.
But we are 2 people, so we can take the carpool lane.
True.
The horse
Very
lane,
true.
I should say. Yeah.
So yeah, Gandalf encourages Shadowfax to run as he has never run before.
I love that. Could you tell? I mean, I might have gotten a little passionate in that reading there.
You did great.
Yeah, hope is in speed, right? And I just, Shadowfax's response gives me chills every time. I love it.
Fire flew from his feet.
That alliteration is magical, isn't it?
Yeah. So cool. So cool.
It really, really is.
And then Pippin falls asleep.
Yeah.
I don't know how, because this is just too darn exciting.
Seriously.
But, kid, car, road trip, I guess that's what happened.
That is true. Yeah.
He falls asleep and he has this dream of being on a horse statue.
Yeah.
While the world is moving. I love that. That's just
Isn't that cool?
A wonderful, wonderful description. I don't even know what to say about it. It's just so cool.
I agree. I've had a similar strange feeling. You and I were still as stones. We were seated upon a couple of bar stools while the barkeep sorted through bags and bags of mail.
I have that dream. I do.
But even after we finish Barlowman's bag, the talk still continues all night long at the Prancing Pony.
That's right. Our fantastic listener community keeps the conversation going in all of our social media spaces. At our common room on Facebook, you'll find comments, questions, corrections, and more on every episode, as well as updates from us throughout the week. Just look for the Prancing Pony Podcast on Facebook.
And be sure to follow the page and join our group. Now, the page, of course, that lets us keep you up to date on the latest happenings of the podcast. But the group gives you a chance to discuss Tolkien with your fellow listeners.
And of course, we also have some really good discussions going on over on Reddit. You can find us there at r/prancingponypod. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, both with the handle @prancingponypod. And if you're enjoying the show, please share us and consider giving us a review on Apple Podcasts.
Now, this episode airs on August 1st, and it's the end of our season. But if you're paying attention to the episode numbers, a little math tells you that episode 222 isn't too far away.
As a matter of fact, it's going to be 2 episodes into next season.
That's right.
You might remember the fun we had with our 111st episode, going over the highlights of our first 110 shows. Well, I've tried to come up with a name for our 222nd episode, but I haven't done so yet.
Well, we'll have to at some point.
We're going to have to at some point, but 22D2 or something like that is what I said last time, and I regretted it.
111st to the 2nd?
There you go. That's much better than what I just said, which I said I would never say again, but I just said it again, so... Say that many times fast. Anyway,
no, thank you.
It is going to be a highlight show. That's what's important, with
Yes,
selections chosen by you.
That's right. So be thinking of your favorite moments from episode 112 through this episode and send them into Barliman. Be sure to include an episode number, a starting timestamp, and a brief note describing the segment.
Yeah, and get those to us quickly, by the way. In fact, we are only going to be able to accept submissions through August 22nd, so that gives you just about 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, that's because we've got to assemble all these clips, put together our reactions to these clips. It's going to be a very time-consuming process.
Yep.
Write an intro for each of the segments. So please get those to us by August 22nd.
Yep, that's right. And again, please do send in a note describing the segment because our digital ads vary in quantity and length. So if you just give us a timestamp, you're almost definitely going to be off by a minute or two. So
yeah, that's true.
Help us find your clip. And if we use it, we'll give you a shout out. And thank you in advance for helping us celebrate 222 episodes.
Wow. And finally, if you want exclusive content like postscripts, full bonus episodes, live Discord events with me and Shawn, and episodes without the digital ads, then check out patreon.com/prancingponypod, where you can support the show by joining the Fellowship of the Podcast. Now, let's go ahead and see what messages Barlin has brought us tonight. Shawn.
All right, first up, Matt F. in Wausau, Wisconsin says, I was listening to the exceptional Clamavi de Profundis version of the Song of Durin again, and the line, no stain yet on the moon was seen, stuck with me. I jumped ahead about 100 episodes to hear your comments. I guess he was a bit behind the podcast.
I guess, yeah.
And had a further thought. Could this line be indicative of the possibility that the professor had an alternate Khazadish history or legendarium in mind? Something akin to the Silmarillion, but with the dwarves as the loci. To me, this would fit within his world building. This idea does run into a sticking point in that several dramatis personae of the Years of the Trees in the First Age, Galadriel and Glorfindel at the very least, are alive and well through the Third Age and could provide first-hand accounts of the creation of the sun and moon. Just a thought, and would love your take on the idea. Alan, you have any thoughts here?
Yeah, I'm sure that regardless of any mythology he had conceived of for them, Tolkien imagined that the dwarves certainly had their own mythology, even if he didn't. We get glimpses of this throughout the Legendarium, like in the chapter of Aule and Yavanna. Aforetime it was held among the elves in Middle-earth that dying the dwarves returned to the earth and the stone of which they were made. Yet that is not their own belief, for they say that Aule the Maker, whom they call Mahal, cares for them and gathers them to Mandos in halls set apart, and that he declared to their fathers of old that Ilúvatar will hallow them and give them a place among the children in the end. Then their part shall be to serve Aule and to aid him in the remaking of Arda after the last battle.
That's right. There's also one right after that when we see a parallel to elvish rehousing.
Oh, yeah.
They say also that the seven fathers of the dwarves return to live again in their own kin, and to bear once more their ancient names, of whom Durin was the most renowned in after ages. And there's even another glimpse, although only a glimpse, of the dwarves' own mythology in Appendix A to Lord of the Rings, in Part 3, Durin's Folk, where it says, concerning the beginning of the dwarves, strange tales are told both by the Eldar and by the dwarves themselves. But since these things lie far back beyond our days, little is said of them here. And if you remember that the hour in that passage is the hobbits who compiled the Red Book of Westmarch, you can start to see the in-universe reasons why glimpses of dwarvish mythology are all we get.
Yeah.
Remember, Tolkien's meta-narrative is all about translating existing works, whether it's works written by the hobbits or the elves, and the dwarves are a secretive race. They don't even share their language with outsiders, so it would be pretty rare for them to share their myths with outsiders as well. I think if they had written something equivalent to the Silmarillion, it would be in Khûzdûl.
Yeah.
It would probably never be shared with anybody and never be seen by any of the scribes who wrote down the books that Tolkien translated to give us the Legendarium.
Yeah, I think you're right. That just doesn't fit with the meta-narrative.
Yeah.
I just don't see the tale of the dwarves being as important to Tolkien as those of the elves and men. Don't get me wrong, but let's be honest. The Silmarillion is named after the all-important jewels around which the entire First Age revolved. Then you look at the fact that Ilúvatar didn't originally have the dwarves in the music or his plans. I mean, granted, he adopted them and they're still children of Ilúvatar, but it's fair to say they have a lesser role in the scope of the history of Arda. They're certainly not involved in the, embiggening, in the ennobling of men the way the elves are. There isn't that give and take with elves and men. There isn't that transition like we get with elves and men in terms of leadership of the world. And finally, Tolkien often left glimpses of whatever he had in his mind in small writings, things that we would later see brought to light in the various volumes, especially the later volumes of the history of Middle-earth. Given that we don't have much at all along the lines of what Matt asks, I think it's safe to say that Tolkien didn't have a fleshed out history of the dwarves in mind. But as I said before, you can bet he figured the dwarves did.
I'm sure he did. And I think you're right. I think Tolkien just he didn't set out to write a history of dwarves. He set out to create languages and mythology for England and all that stuff, and it all revolved around the elves.
That's correct.
I do think you're right, though, that he must have thought the dwarves did. And I bet that the dwarves' own history would probably revolve around something other than the Silmarils.
Oh, well, certainly, yeah.
Silmarils probably weren't much of a thing to the dwarves.
Nope, just the Nauglamir one.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I bet their own history probably revolves around some of those great dwarven treasure hoards that we just hear about.
Oh, yeah.
Or the delving of Nogrod and Belagost and Khazad-dûm.
Mm.
I mean, it would be wonderful if we had that stuff, and even more wonderful if we had their own version of the creation story, like Matt says, but
Yeah.
sadly we just don't.
No.
And I think, as you said, Tolkien didn't really leave any indication that he had that in mind
Yeah.
as actually written.
Right.
As for the sticking point that Matt raised, the idea that, well, somebody like Galadriel was actually alive for the creation of the sun and moon and could correct the dwarves' own version of the story. I mean, yeah, that's possible. Like, it could have
Sure.
happened, but I can't imagine that she'd be able to convince most dwarves.
Oh, no.
You grow up with your own stories, and that mythology, it becomes a matter of belief to you. It's part of their religion, ultimately.
Right. It's
Yeah,
a core belief. Can't be persuaded otherwise.
right, exactly. So I don't see that being a problem. I think dwarves would still have their own version of those stories, even if
Mhm.
people are like, I was there. I totally remember this.
Shut
like
up, elf.
Right, exactly.
Liar.
Right. So, but it's an awesome question, Matt. Thank you very much for that.
It is.
And Alan, do we have time for one more?
We do. Just one more. Erwin in the Netherlands asks our last Bartleman's Bag question for Season 5. He says, the PPP has, maybe unexpectedly, grown into something quite big. I, for one, am immensely enjoying this new community. But an increase in audience and appreciation can also increase pressure. In the end, we're all human, and sometimes life gets in the way or interests shift. How do you cope with the fandom bestowed upon yourselves and the expectations of said fans? Loosely quoting Gandalf when he leaves the hobbits, are you a stone doomed to rolling faster and faster? What do you do to wind down or recharge? Or have you set yourself some limits regarding involvement? I'm asking this because as a fan, I'm hoping to enjoy the PPP for a long time, but also don't want to put too much of an obligation on the both of you. Oh my. This is an interesting question, and Shawn, I am going to let you start.
Oh, thank you for that. And honestly, thank you, Erwin. It's actually great to hear from you. And it was great to meet you at the PPP Moot.
Indeed.
I actually was in a happy hour with Erwin, and we both were drinking Belgian ales, which was kind of cool.
Right on.
We got into a nice little sidebar conversation about Belgian ales, which was cool.
I bet you did.
But Erwin, I'm, first of all, just thrilled that you're hoping to enjoy the PPP for a long time.
Yep.
I can honestly say that Alan and I really enjoy doing it, and we're hoping to enjoy doing it for a long time too.
Yes, we are.
I mean, it's a lot of work. There's a lot of long hours, and there's at least one late night a week.
Yeah.
But we enjoy doing it. We've become friends through this process, and we enjoy hanging out and just talking about this stuff.
Yes, we do.
And our families are really supportive of us. So, yeah, we plan on being at this for a long time.
Yeah.
As for coping with the fandom, I mean, this is a weird one for me.
That's a weird one. Yeah, I know. Me too, man.
It is. I mean, I know we have fans. I do know that. But I try not to think about it that way. I just feel like we are part of this larger Tolkien community online that's bigger than us. We're just one small part of it. And I've been a part of this community for a long time before we started the podcast.
Right.
And I've gotten a lot of joy and insight from that community, and I've made a lot of friends in that community.
Yeah.
And this podcast is what I do to give back.
Yeah.
And
agreed.
Yeah, I know that there are people in that community who are fans of the work that we do, Alan, but I'm also a fan of the work that many of those people do. There's artists, there's scholars and more in that community.
That's right.
And it all just kind of goes around. And I just feel like one person in it doing what I can. So if I can give back to the community by giving an artist something to listen to while they're sketching, or inspiring a blogger to write something that turns into a longer academic essay that gets published.
Oh yeah, I love those stories.
And these things have happened, and it's awesome. And or even if it's just helping a listener find their new favorite Tolkien thing, that lifts me up. That's what keeps me going.
It's huge. I know that the emails that we get from people that talk about the influence or the impact that we've had on their lives, those, it's funny. They move me and they're powerful, and I love reading them. And at the same time, I have to forget all about them when I get in the booth, because, sometimes we'll get messages from somebody. I'll never forget. There was one that talked about, I think, losing both a spouse and a parent in the span of about a year, and how we helped them get through their grief. And I think, well, I can't think about that when I come in this booth and crack totally inappropriate jokes. Right. I mean, I can't think of the fact that we've saved people from some things,
It would put too much pressure on us if we thought of it that way.
Right. But it's deeply powerful to know that it's
Absolutely.
happened. And it
Absolutely.
really does give you that motivation. Like you said, it lifts me up.
Yep.
I mean, look, honestly, the whole We Have Fans thing really does still weird me out. I remember the very first time somebody asked me for a selfie, and I thought, what? Why?
Yeah.
I mean, why? I'm just, I've said it before. We're just these guys, But like you said, I think of our community as that. It's community. I don't think of us up here and our listeners down there looking up at us in adoration.
No.
I think of us all sitting around a table. I mean, granted, it's a really big table, but yeah, we lead the conversation, but we're among friends here. And I know I speak for both of us when I say that may be the most pleasant surprise of the last 5 seasons.
I agree.
Yeah, it's been such a huge surprise that we've had fans, but also that it's become such an amazing community around the show. And I absolutely love that. And like you said, I've become a fan of so many people as a result as well. Our interviews, it's pretty clear I'm a fan of some of the people we've spoken with.
Oh, yeah.
Really, with everybody we've had on the show, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's been great. It
Definitely
really has. Yeah.
And it's allowed us to geek out and fanboy out, with people that we would love to. So yeah, it's all of those things. Now, as for coping with the expectations of the fans, to be honest, I think the expectations Alan and I set for ourselves far exceed any obligation you all could place on us.
That is probably fair.
We are both pretty much perfectionists, aren't we?
Kinda, yeah.
And from the very beginning, we've constantly been challenging ourselves to make the show better, to do our best, and that energizes us. And
it sure does, yeah.
And we would keep trying to make the show better, whether we still had 20 people listening, like our first episode, or 20,000, which we're not at yet, but I hope to get to someday.
Halfway there, but yeah.
We are halfway there. But honestly, I mean, we set ourselves a goal to meet our own high expectations, and I think that generally sets us up for success.
I agree, yeah. I mean, granted, we are able to do more to make the show better because we have so many listeners, but you're right, we would be making those efforts regardless.
Yep, definitely. Now, Erwin also asked about winding down and recharging, because that is important.
Oh, it's huge.
Burnout is something we don't even want to get close to, right?
No.
And so we do. I love my downtime. It's mostly time with my family. My 3 main creative hobbies, you've heard me talk about this before, Alan. I call them the 3 Bs.
Right.
Baking, barbecuing, and brewing beer. And
nice.
These keep me doing something for my family.
Wait, hold on. It's the 6 Bs: baking bread, barbecuing beef, and brewing beer.
Oh, nicely done. Nicely done. The BBB.
That's right.
And those keep me giving back to my family and my friends.
Yeah.
And that's nice. They're getting something out of my creative labors as well.
That's good.
My family, we play a lot of games together. Play a lot of board games with my wife and kids. Some video games, not as much.
Yeah.
My kids love video games. I don't really play too many video games anymore.
It's fair.
I just started a D&D campaign with my wife and kids.
I saw on Facebook. That's awesome. Oh, man, I'd love to do that.
That's pretty exciting times. We also watch a lot of movies. My wife and I are big movie fans, and that's what we tend to do when it's just the two of us. We travel whenever we can, and I'm actually really glad that we can start traveling again now this summer.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just me alone, and then I'm usually reading a lot. And fortunately, even though my Tolkien thing is now sort of like a job for me, I still enjoy reading Tolkien. I still love reading Tolkien, and I read a lot of Tolkien fandom stuff, academic stuff, just fun, goofy stuff. But I also read non-Tolkien stuff too, fiction and nonfiction.
Yeah, me too. Boy, expectations, I think you nailed it. I don't know that I could add much more to that, except that, we are always trying to find ways to make it better. Our hiatus, I know our listeners don't like that for a few weeks, 5-6 weeks every summer we go away, but it's during that time that we come up with the things that we need to do to improve. Every single season, we're going too fast during the year to do much during the year to make it better, right? There's just too much going on for us to make significant structural changes. But during that off season, that's when we have the chance to look back, to see what we can do to make it better. And that's what we do every single time. So, we're still working during our hiatus. We do take some time, of course. That's why, we're recording this far ahead of when it actually airs. And so we'll take a break before you guys are taking your break from the show. But we do work awfully hard at it. But, winding down and recharging, I admit there are days where that feels like a truly rare luxury. Truth be told, I'm usually on my bike or at the gym for a while each morning, and then it's work, dinner, kids, work, bed, rinse and repeat. You know, I mean, it's just one day bleeds into the next. But, you know, my primary day job, architectural photography, that does require a lot of weekend work. So it's not often that I get an actual day off. But, you know, I find time here and there when I'm able. And when I do, well, you know, I like to binge some good TV, watch sports. I'm a huge sports fan. I'll watch everything from football to the Tour de France to the Euros to the Olympics to Formula One to just, you know, just about anything except for, well, bowling. We joked about bowling. Yeah, I binge some of that, playing the Xbox with my son, maybe dive into some Lotro. I'm a big fan of Civilization on my PC, so I'll play some of that. Sometimes I just want to get in the car, drive with the music loud for a little while, you know, get around some corners nice and fast. Traveling, you mentioned traveling. Man, I am looking forward to doing that again and spending time with friends. That's why I'm wanting to go to both Oxenmoot and Mythmoot this year. Yeah. Limits? And that's a tough question. You're right. This show does take a lot out of us. We put a lot into it.
Yeah.
Willingly. I spend 20 to 25 hours on the show. It would be more than that if we didn't have a team. I'd like to think that 20 to 25 hours a week is my limit, but, you know, the month leading into our moot showed that I could do more if I had to. I suppose that as long as I'm able, I'll put as much into the show as I need to in order to keep making it better. We've long said our priorities are family, day jobs, and then the PPP. And as long as those are in the right order, we're fine.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, I know we've dreamt about the idea of making this quite literally our full-time day jobs, but that's a pretty far off dream for now. And until then, we just keep them in order and we're good to go.
Yeah, you know, limits, they're a little easier for me just because they have to be.
That's true. Yeah, you have a little different situation than I do. It's true.
Yeah, I've got a 8 to 5 office job and it's pretty busy.
Yeah.
It has kind of limited the amount of time that I'm able to spend on the show to about 15 hours a week, which I just kind of carve out of nights and weekends.
Yeah.
But, you know, Alan and I have always been very strict with ourselves about keeping family and day jobs first.
Right.
You know, which is good. I think those are the right priorities.
That's right.
Without getting those things taken care of first, the show doesn't happen.
No, you know? You're absolutely right. Yeah. I can't do this show from under a freeway overpass. So yeah.
If I can't feed my family, it's not gonna be able to make this podcast. So yeah, I do the work thing, and then I do the dad and husband thing, and then I pour everything I have left into this podcast, and I'm happy to do it. It's not a chore.
Yeah,
I really love what we do, and everybody listening is a big part of that. So thank you, Erwin, and thank you all, because you're all what keeps us going.
Absolutely. The Tolkien fandom, not the PPP fandom, because I guess we said that's still weird. The Tolkien fandom and the PPP community are what really keeps this show going. So,
yeah. And now I feel like I need another one of those Belgian ales to toast to 5 seasons and counting, man.
5 seasons, and we're only halfway done with Lord of the Rings. I love it.
Yep.
That's great.
Yep, indeed. All right.
Well, folks, that does conclude another episode and another season of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Please be sure to join us again on September 19th when we start season 6.
And we're going to get our Gollum voices ready for that one. So that's going to be fun. And lots of the Gollum juice that Andy Serkis used.
Oh, man, the lemon and the honey.
Yeah. Well, folks, as always, we want to take a moment to thank some truly important people, our patrons at the Kierdance contribution tier. I'm going to start with DeMay in Alaska, James in Virginia, Tamsin in Minnesota, Chad in Texas, Lance in New Jersey, Paul in Colorado, Jerry in Texas, Bruce in California, Mario in Utah, Seth in Texas, B in California, Joseph in Texas, Kathy from North Carolina, Lori from Washington, and Josh in Oklahoma.
And then we have Carlos in California, Brian from the UK, Cameron in Nevada, Ned from Connecticut, Jerry from Washington, Nick from Wisconsin, Ryan from Alaska, Paul from Buckland, Joe in Washington, Ryan in Illinois, Erwin from the Netherlands, and Lucas in Germany. Thank you all so very much for your support.
Thank you all.
Yeah. Now, we also want to thank the team that helps make this show better. They've been with us for a whole season now, and I just don't know what we do without them. So thank you to our research assistants. Thank you to our Barnleman, Becca Davis, our producer, Jordan Rennells, our social media manager, Casey Hilsey, our event and Patreon community coordinator, Katie McKenna, and our website guru, Phil Dean.
I know we say this in every episode, but it really is true, and I really want everybody to hear it right now.
Yeah.
This show would not be what it is without our supporters and every single one of our teammates.
Absolutely. We could not have done it without you.
No. So thank you all so much. Now, folks, be sure you don't miss any episodes of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Subscribe to the show through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
And one last thing as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and most of all, your playlists for a road trip to Minas Tirith to barnum@theprancingponypodcast.com.
Just as long as Road Movie to Berlin by They Might Be Giants is on.
We're in a road.
No, well, this episode is long enough. It's long enough. We gotta keep it.
I know.
But folks, Barliman is a lot more reliable these days, but we do get a lot of mail. So we'll get to you as soon as we can, and your question or comment may be featured on a future episode.
As always, this has been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time.
Farewell, friends.